Hello, everyone. How do you do? Welcome back to the old MCU crew.
Ooh.
Oh, is that going to be
Oh,
the? That
hello.
was a rhyme. I kind of like that intro.
Hello,
That one
everyone. How do you do? Welcome back to the MCU crew. It
that
had
might
like a little like.
stick. That might stick. I kind of like that. That might, we might have found it. We found the rhythm.
Mm, mm.
Maybe. Let's not get too confident. I think you're right, Jesse. I think you're right.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, yeah. Jesse's also reacting to the Venom trailer this morning.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
also
the exact same. Mm.
very similar. Very similar. I hope everyone's had a good week. Hope everyone got their phase 2 coverage watched. Oh, Ollie's decided to join. Oh, Andy's gone. That's Ollie. He came in here and let me know that he's alive and he's
So
good to go.
fickle.
Yeah.
So in your life and out.
Yeah, he's good. He's good to go. He's good to go. We've got a decent amount of news. The marketing world has kicked up for What If, which makes me think that maybe it's not tracking that well because they put out a shit ton of stuff about What If this past week, as well as made some announcements regarding the Hawkeye show, as that has a date tied to it. Let's just jump in to the news here. November 24th is when that comes out. A day after Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker. That's a big yikes for me. I don't know if I'm going to be,
I mean, what if I put it on in the background
maybe.
and I end up as Star-Lord? I
Maybe.
feel like that's the premise of my show. Put it on the background and I end up on the moon.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. They put out a photo as well to mark the big November 24th reveal. There it is. That's Haley Steinfeld and everyone's favorite Hawkeye, aka Jeremy Renner.
Oh my God, 2 archers. That show's gonna be tough to beat.
Yeah.
I mean, like, can I make a look? Here's the guess we need. Here's my guesswork. I'm gonna put that out there just because it's the show I want, not the show I think we're gonna get. I'm gonna need 6 episodes of Haley and Florence going at it, just like beating the crap out of each other.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like them just like, like fighting, getting on like, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's what I want. And then in the background, Clint's just like, oh, geez. The end. That'd be an amazing series.
So you want as little possible Jeremy Renner in this show?
Like, I mean, I don't need any more Jeremy Renner. Like, what is his character? What does Clint bring anymore to the story? Like, his story is having rewatched all of phase 2, I felt like his story was kind of over at the end of phase 2. So, I mean,
he definitely
like,
had an arc there in Ultron.
Yeah. So he just was kind of around.
Yeah.
And then they brought him back to suffer, and now he's back again. But like, he was unimportant in phase 1. He was unimportant in phase 2, except for like a thing they did. I don't know. He's not like an important character. It's nice that he has a show, but the show's clearly not about him.
Right. Like, it's more about Haley Steinfeld being brought into the fold.
Right.
Yeah. For whatever the plan is with her, whether it's like a Young Avengers role or whether it's her taking up the mantle of Hawkeye and him living his life with the rest of his family and disappearing. I don't know. Yeah. I guess we'll see what happens with that. Here's the question I have for both you and Bronze, and maybe even more so for Bronze, because I think her very well voiced disfavor for Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye is out there. What does it take to win you over? Like, what does this show have to do for you to become like, all right, Hawkeye's pretty cool? She's thinking.
I'm thinking, yeah.
She's thinking.
I mean,
like it's a little too long. It's like a little like the silence was palpable.
Yeah, that's why I had to fill
I'm trying to put my finger on exactly what I didn't like about Renner's performance. And, for me, a lot of it does come down to like writing. I feel like they've never really known what to do with that character, and I've kind of felt that way about Black Widow as well, but she was at least, I feel like in Winter Soldier, now that we're talking about phase 2 stuff, I feel like at least in Winter Soldier, I could see what purpose or like how she could shine. But for me, I just never had that, and And I know we were joking about that in Avengers of like, oh, here's Hawkeye doing a cool thing. Oh no, he only brought 4 arrows. Like, I feel like he's just one of those characters that they just don't know what to do with him and the Hulk. Where how do we make them seem cool but not so too cool? And also we have to try to hamstring them in some way.
Mm.
And then the other thing, and I'm gonna try not to make it too personal. Jeremy Renner, when he is mind controlled, I like him more than when he's just him because he has the
What?
smuggest expression. I don't know how to describe it. He looks so smug a lot of the time. And so, watching ScarJo fight him on that cliff for the Soul Stone, I don't know. I feel like he never left that mind control phase. He always played his character. Maybe
Plot
that's just
twist.
me. I feel like he always played his character with like a little bit of just like, douchebaggery that didn't need to be there or bravado that
So-
didn't need to be there. Maybe I'm wrong.
What if I were to
but-
tell you he has resting douche face, and that's kind of offensive to me that you don't see through that? Like, what if I were to tell you that? Like, that's just how he looks. That's just how he looks, and
Okay, but look,
you
am
know.
I not wrong? Look at the way his brow. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like this type of thing. Like, listen, you're new here, kid. Like he's always kind of had that.
Can I
like,
tell you
that bad
I
guy
know-
vibe? So when he's mind controlled, it like makes more sense for him. But
I know exactly what you're talking about, and the best example of this I can give is the dude who created Family Guy. I cannot remember his name right now.
Seth, not Killian. That's a fighting game guy.
Well,
McFarlane.
the guy, him, he like can do a million things wonderful, but I cannot watch him be the lead or let alone act normally in anything because his face has that like look. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, God, I can't. You just look smug all the time, and that's the same thing. I understand.
you get
I
it.
understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, you're too hard on the guy, but I almost hope he's kind of a bad guy in the show. Like I hope we get to see what shenanigans he was up to, that were alluded to about the whole Ronin thing that we never got to see. And I hope that Kate has to like find out about that in some way and choose to be a better version of him. Like, I think that would be cool. I think that's what it would take to get me to like really enjoy the show.
The premise that you had at the beginning, the idea of him being a poorly written character, yeah, I don't know that I can put, Jeremy Renner is Jeremy Renner. He's been in a million things and he's been fine. The idea, though, that you're spot on with is that it's very obvious they knew how and in what way to write the main 3. And everyone around them served only to expand the plot. And it wasn't until much later they were like, oh boy, we need to like do stuff with these characters.
Well, I don't
because,
think they
again,
expected it to go, 40 movies deep, right?
I mean, you're right, but also like, I can understand why Jeremy Renner, as an actor, has said numerous times how upset he was with the way they took his character. Like, even he knows that his character from Avengers forward literally is just like, I am the human who has 3 lines a movie. Like, that's
right.
It sucks that's his character, and I don't know. It's interesting to see.
Smug might be the only way he can play it. If your character notes are like you shoot stuff and look cool, then maybe like that's why to me he came off as like kind of douchey the entire time. It's because he doesn't have any character depth beyond that. Maybe I'm wrong, but like if your character notes are just like you're a cool guy, man, you shoot arrow. Maybe he's like, okay, like I'll make this face and shoot arrows, and that could be a big part of like why I had such a hard time liking him. I will say this: the first few minutes of words are so hard, y'all. I'm gonna be honest. We were late this morning because I woke up like 5 minutes before we went on because My alarm didn't go off, and I'm still trying to recalibrate. But when his family gets snapped away,
Yeah.
that was the first time I really was like, oh, wow, he's given us something other than
He can
cool guy
actually,
man.
yeah, the character or the
Because they
writers
let the
gave
man
him,
act. He
they
had
let
a
him act.
scene.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
You know,
that
which
was the first time.
It was for me, it was one of the best like opens for a Marvel movie because it was a completely different tone than every other. Like most Marvel movies up until that point were just like, you know, they would have like some sizzle thing and then it would put like kick in AC/DC specifically for Iron Man shit. And then like Iron Man would flash across the screen or whatever. This was like, nope, someone's family's going to be snapped away. We're going to have some very low key music happening here. Very somber music. So I don't say Loki again, playing over that. And then we're going to roll, you know, the name of the thing. And then we're going to go somewhere else. And it's all going to be very, very chill, very boring. Opener to a pretty shitty situation in the actual MCU at that point. So I thought it was a very effective opening, and he definitely like carried that.
Well, I
having
feel
watched
like they
Age of
always
Ultron,
alluded to his family too, didn't they? Like I feel like they brought up his family a lot, but then we never saw
yeah.
them. So why would we care about them?
Yeah.
No, we definitely. I mean, Age of Ultron was his family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I think even though that was kind of like, it was all right. It was you know, having rewatched that this past week, it definitely gives us more of his character, and it's a very obvious thing. They were like, oh, we probably should give this guy a character. But even in that stuff, most of those scenes were his wife being like, I need you to come home because I am pregnant. And he's like, baby, I will. Roger that, mama. Like that was pretty much roughly the equivalent. Honestly, he's like, yes, ma'am, I will. I love you. I report back to you, my wife.
Right.
And then like it humanized him, but he didn't need to be humanized. You know, it's one of those characters who like, we don't need to humanize Hawkeye. In a world of people who can fly, he is the most human. Like you don't need to make him more human. He is so very human. And but yeah, most of that movie is his wife being like, I think the Avengers need you. And he's like, Roger that, mama. I swear that's pretty much how it goes. I have lots. Look, I have lots. I can't wait till we start. Bring out the list. I'm ready. I'm so ready today. I can't wait to critically pan all of the second phase. You know what I realized? I think I hate the second phase of Marvel movies. I want to let you know that.
Okay, a great preamble.
Except for two movies. Well, crap. I think I love two movies and hate. This sucks. Marvel.
A great preamble to the conversation later in the show. Well, to wrap up, Ollie, you got to stop knocking shit over. You're being the most annoying dog.
I have a special request, JP.
Yeah.
Can we name this episode something like Hawkeye fans will hate them the way they do on, like, you know?
It's up to Reggie. I don't handle any of that. Reggie, if you're listening, that's the name of the thing.
Something clickbaity and,
yeah,
you know,
sure.
Hawkeye, greatest hero ever. And then it's just 5 minutes of us talking about Roger Mama.
There you go. Okay. He's in the chat. He says, got it. He understands. Well, we'll see what happens with Hawkeyes. That's going to be coming out on November 24th to Disney Plus. Let's talk about this what if stuff. They, like I said at the start of the show, they have picked up on the marketing now that we're about 10 days. I think this is next Wednesday. Yeah. So about a week and a half away from this thing coming out. They put out a lot of stuff regarding this. Some of the big news bits, Chadwick Boseman voices T'Challa in 4 of the episodes. Clark Gregg, Phil Coulson's will return. He's going to be in the show. I think they said that there's like 50 other people in there. The voice cast includes, I can read all of this. Haley Atwell is Captain Peggy Carter. Josh Brolin is Thanos. Dominic Cooper is Howard Stark. David, I'm not going to read his last name, is Kurt. Michael Douglas is Hank Pym. Karen Gillian is Nebula. Jeff Goldblum is Grandmaster. Frank Grillo is Brock Rumlow. Sean Gunn is Kraglin. Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Tom Hiddleston is Loki. Oh God. How do you say this name? It's not Digimon. That's just awful. It's Digimon Hunso is Korath the Pursuer. Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury. Toby Jones is Arnim Zola. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, Neil McDonnell as Dum Dum Dugan, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton, Michael Rooker as Yondu, Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, Sebastian Stan as James Bucky Barnes, Chris Sullivan as Taserface, Stanley Tucci as Abraham Erskine. That's Captain America's scientist, right? He was the super soldier serum guy, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Taika Waititi is Korg, and Seth Green is Howard the Duck. So we're getting some Howard the Duck, I guess, in What If. They say Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, the Collector, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel are also in the series, but with different voice actors than their MCU counterparts. They also put out a trailer for it, showing kind of the same stuff that we have seen this whole time. So
interesting, they have different actors.
Yeah, then like kind of the big ones, right? It makes me wonder like how much of a speaking role those are going to have, because we've seen Iron Man as a zombie, I think, and Peggy Carter is playing Captain America in that, and so I wonder like what role those 5 will be.
What were those 5 again?
Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Collector, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. So I could see them being like,
weird,
side stories in a lot of ways.
I mean, the amount of people you listed off, I can also see them being like, some of the people you mentioned are out of contract now, so they don't have to do it.
Right.
And some people you mentioned may only have like one line, so it doesn't make sense to pay, because a lot of the time you read the Marvel contracts and things, and it's like, a great example is Hulk. And it's like, well, you are signed on to do X number of movies or IP. That doesn't mean he's the star. He's like, you're just signed on to do this thing. So it could be that many of the cast are like, oh, we signed you on to do X number of stuff, so we want you for this. And some of these people they don't need, right? Like, if they're a zombie, I don't need like an actual Tony Stark voice of like I don't need that.
Right.
Like, I get it.
Someone in chat was asking, or a lot of people were asking, how many episodes this is. It'll be 10 episodes of What If. So that means we'll get an episode starting next Wednesday, which will take us into October. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that'll take us all the way through October 20th. So we're going to be getting one movie in the span of this, I think. Yeah, that'll we'll get one movie, and then very close to the Eternals coming out in November. But I'm interested to see like how the Marvel fan base responds to What If. It can go 2 ways, right? It can be like really great Twitter conversation and like meme creation of just like, oh man, I wish they would have done this in the movies with this character. Then you get people like battling over that, or no one's going to give a shit because it's not like canon, so to speak. And so people are going to be disinterested in the characters and in the stories that are kind of told in there. I'm interested to see how that goes.
It's one of those things where the premise is always cooler than the actual product. And
potentially.
You're right, but just based off the past what ifs, be it Marvel properties or even when Star Wars did what ifs, and it was like, oh yeah, what if Leia was the guy who saved the galaxy, right? Like that kind of stuff. The premise is always much cooler than because then, at a certain point in time, it's just like, all right, we're going to rehash a tale with a different character in the lead, but it's like still kind of the same. And so you have to create more outlandish and wacky things for those characters, which is why it's like, okay, now they're all zombies and they're all and that can be amazing, but I don't know. It depends on what we're actually gonna get, right? It depends on how well these stories are crafted, because at the end of the day, it is what it is, which is a thought experiment. Just like, there are many books out there that exist that have the what if title. There's like a what if history book, there's a what if science book. There are plenty of those, and if you read them, at the end of the day, there are like a few interesting things, and they're like, oh, that would change the course of history, and that would do this, but like it's still a thought experiment that is just, oh, that could be interesting. And so if you don't flesh it out in a way that's compelling, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. There is kind of the interesting, like the way that this show is chronologically, or not chronologically, but being released. The time period for this being released comes after the multiverse has just kind of been unleashed on the MCU, right? And so I think that they're hoping that a lot of people will start to understand, or will hopefully understand in their way, is like, these aren't just like made up stories. This is like alternate realities, right? Alternate dimensions that actually exist, but they're not like, the sacred timeline story, so to speak. And I think with that being kind of this overarching almost shadow of the whole thing, that kind of has me more interested in it, because it is, maybe it's referenced in the proper actual MCU at some point. I don't know how that could be, but I'd love to see, like, I guess maybe a zombie pop up or something, right? That'd be kind of crazy if they just had zombie Iron Man flying around or some shit in one of these movies for a split second. It'd be kind of cool to see.
I think one of the things I really kind of like about what if style comics, and now what I'm looking forward to about the show, is that it also, I think, like Jesse was saying, I like the thought experiment part of it, of like subverting expectations, because I think especially with the films, we have this like, I can't imagine anybody else being Captain America. I can't imagine anybody else. So it's kind of interesting to be like, well, here's like a little one shot where that, somebody else is. And it kind of helps get your mind out of this like very sort of singular perspective that this
Totally.
one actor is who needs to be Captain America, and any other version of that would just be wrong. And it's like, well, here's a Peggy Carter, Captain America, and show people that like it could be cool. But then the other great thing that I always say, like the thing that goes for MCU but also works against it, is continuity. Ultimately, they can't really do very interesting or very cool things because they have to worry about the next 10 years of movies. Like, as we're going through the MCU and ranking the different phases, that becomes more and more apparent. You can't do very interesting things or have like, and I'm not saying, oh, the movies are boring. I'm just saying, like, to a certain extent, we kind of know that they can't, like, this movie's probably, Ant-Man's probably not going to die in Quantumania. Like, that's what I mean by, like, we have a reasonable idea where they're going to end. With the shows, I think that's why Loki blew us all away, is because we had a reasonable idea where these shows were going to end in such a way that you don't need to watch them if you want to watch the main MCU movies. So having a what if series is interesting because it's the only time they get to just not have to care about the movie that comes after or continuity. So they can kind of tell a really narratively different story than everything that's come out of the MCU thus far.
I almost like, I don't want to use the word cop out because that's not correct. It's not the way that I would describe it. But the idea of a what if series where, it's like, oh, well, Star-Lord is T'Challa.
Right.
Or Peggy Carter is Captain America, or all those different things. Or at least from what you can see, I think it's like actual Captain America wearing an Iron Man, like a Hulkbuster suit. Like that kind, like all that stuff is cool. It's fun, but it also relies on stuff we know. So the fun of it is, oh, it's Black Panther being Star-Lord. That's wild. When really, I think what they should have done is something that I think a lot of people would have been like hype over. Live action, but it's like Tom Cruise's Iron Man. Or like, like they hired other actors to play the characters.
Well, they said there's going to be multiple seasons of it.
Right, but I mean, like, what if it was just like not an animated thing, but it's literally just like, because people are like, there was an article this past week where a dude was like, anyone could play Iron Man. Then that's a character they should bring back.
Right.
And then the responses were like, no way, dude. I think it would be hilarious if they were like, yeah, no, here's another actor who is going to play the role, because when you watch Loki, Loki isn't when he sees other Lokis, it isn't like, oh yeah, T'Challa's Loki, right? It's not like that. It's not like, oh yeah, no, Star-Lord is a Loki. It's nothing like that. It's like a monster. And then it's like, like 18 different Loki variants. There's old man Loki, a kid, and an alligator. I think it'd be funnier and more fun for the audience if it was like, all right, here are 5 different Iron Men. And they're all different actors, various ages, and we could that
like
kind of thing
into
would
the
be,
Spider-Verse, but for the MCU.
yes, because that's what it really is.
Right.
The idea that another superhero playing a different superhero is like cool is fine, but that's a gimmick. That's just a gimmick. If they were like, yo, all right, Captain Marvel, what if like you wanted, like we got you Brie Larson, what if we got you Allison Brie, right? Like what if they just like just kept flipping it?
Yeah.
That would be insane. I would love to see that. And it doesn't have to be great. It just has to be like, oh my God, that character is being played by a totally different actor, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. And I mean, I guess the downside would be like, what if one of the like new people nails it way better than the currently cast?
Right. That's the thing. I think from a Marvel point of view, right? Like from an executive point of view, like that is 100% the thing. If a like guest actor outshines the main actor, then they're just kind of like, fuck. Right.
All I'm saying is this is I love this idea. Iron Man, it's 5 Robert Downey Jr., Tom Cruise, Jack Black, Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like this is like have like a wild can you imagine if they were just be like, yes, Jack Black, we want you to be Star-Lord. That would be wild.
Well, I think we're getting that
ridiculous.
I think we're getting that with No Way Home and kind of a different skew of how we're getting that, but I see what you're saying for sure. I think it's definitely the more. I think like Pie in the Sky, that'd be fun to watch, but it's definitely the more expensive
Danny DeVito
version.
is the Hulk. Danny DeVito is the Hulk.
He already is the Hulk.
Come on,
eyes, right? Like he doesn't have to prove that. He doesn't have to prove that. I've seen him come out of that couch. That's Hulk activity right there. He's Hulk 101.
Hulk activity.
Can I interest you in a smash? Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I guess the way I see it is with like a DM, like Dungeon Master brain, where it's like, if it's an ongoing series, I have to worry about how I dial things in. You don't want a TPK. You want to have a compelling narrative, because this is a game of Dungeons and Dragons we're going to be playing for the next several weeks. But if it's a one shot, anything goes. So that's kind of my take on these. These are like one shot, and they don't even have to build on each other, because even though it's a series with several seasons, each one is still, from what they've been marketing, seems like it's still just a one shot.
Yeah. I also think from Jesse's point of view, you're going more goof. They're like trying to be serious in the stories that they're telling in a lot of ways.
But the seriousness, the biggest issue I have is like, look at anything that's an anthology series or anything that it's a series of one shots, right? Mm-hmm. There are going to be, I mean, a great example is like recently the Netflix like Love, Sex, Robots, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are always going to be ones that are amazing and ones that are dumb as hell.
Totally.
And the problem is that, if you have a what if series like this, and it ends up like, yeah, well, there's just a bunch of dumb as hell ones, but like 2 good ones. Like at the end of the day, that's a loss. I feel, you want them to all be compelling if it's going to be something that, and there's gonna be season 2 of What If and a season 3. Like they can't. If you play with this fire, you will eventually get burned if you're just like, here's the crazy what if. Like what if Nebula had hair? Like what? That's the conceit. The conceit is Nebula has hair now.
I think they're going to go pretty crazy with it. Like I would bet you that like the Howard the Duck episode is what happened. What if Howard the Duck had the Infinity Stones, right? Like they're going to go full on crazy. Who knows if that's a good story, but like,
yeah, like Howard the Duck is like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely one of those things where people are going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? He showed up for like a second at the end of Guardians and they never did anything with it. Like, why do I care about this character?
Hey, adults, remember Howard the Duck? Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what that episode is.
Right.
Tell your kids about him. He was a duck who could talk.
Look, it'll definitely be a tough, I don't think it'll be a tough sell, but 10 episodes of that. Are we going to be like episode 7? Like, oh shit. Like the past 7 were so, I can't wait for 8. I don't know. I like, that's a lot of episodes of not necessarily canon, but also canon MCU stuff. Right.
Right.
And I think the audience at large will definitely feel that way. But I also think the internet is going to meme the shit out of it. And that's probably what Marvel's hoping on, is that it just becomes like this social media thing where people are like, oh my God, look at this. Look at the fucking, look at the Hulk as a zombie. He's crazy. He looks like the guy from Left 4 Dead. Like that type of shit.
If there was justice, we would get a show where it's like, what if Bruce Wayne was Iron Man? If there was justice in this world,
yeah,
that would be it. That'd be the one.
Look,
I'd be like,
look, James Gunn has started it.
Comics.
Yeah. James Gunn has started it. All right. The DC Marvel joint venture is coming soon. Disney's just going to buy DC. That's what they're going to do.
oh God.
Could you imagine that?
As a fan of DC comic books, it hurts me how not great the DC live action films are. The animated stuff is
Animation's great.
Animated stuff's great. Yeah.
Yeah, their animated stuff's very good.
Although I have heard that
it's like I feel like it's a joke now. Like when people say DC, they laugh, and I'm like, do you know how much, as a huge Sinestro fan, Sinestro is part of my backdrop, how much that Green Lantern film hurt, y'all?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, they did him dirty.
Pouring salt on my wounds.
They did him dirty. Not MCU related, but Suicide Squad's currently sitting at a 96% with 100 reviews, 97 reviews. So it seems like they at least got a win out of that.
But I think that goes to show the thing that Marvel showed us as well, that I think DC should stand to learn, is that Marvel for years had movies that sucked. Like, there were a few good ones every once in a while, but most of them were trash, and they were not good comic book movies. And then they were like, hey, maybe we should change that up. And then they started turning the franchise around.
And then they got people that did Marvel movies.
Yes. And so I'm saying DC has every ability to be like, look, we clearly tried to make our Avengers franchise faster than it deserved.
Right.
We tried to pound out a bunch of movies.
3 movies.
Justice
we got
League.
the Avengers.
Yeah. We tried to create our Justice League as fast as we could to it was undeserved. It was rushed. And here's the thing. There were other Avengers and Spider-Man and other properties and Captain Americas in the past. They can easily be like, all right, let's just reset this bad boy and start over. And they could do that. And fans would be so thrilled.
Yeah.
You can't tell me a DC fan wouldn't be like, yes, let's go. Give us a real Superman movie that, there's
100%.
plenty that you can do.
A normal fan would be like, what the fuck? We're going to do this again? Like a new Superman, really? Right. So that's the hurdle, but I agree with you as well as a fan of those characters. I'd love to just see another go at it. What's
crazy is and this is, welcome to our Marvel show where I talk about DC, but honestly, I remember seeing the Man of Steel trailer, and the trailer, I was like, yo,
it was great.
This is what a Superman movie is. It made me feel like, yo, I am inspired by this film. And then the movie was not even remotely it was we're going to blow up a city.
No, the beginning of that movie is great. I like the first half of the movie. He takes flight. Credits could have rolled as soon as he takes flight. I've been like, that was great. That's awesome.
That's my Superman right there. Yeah. But the idea that it has to, and I think Marvel suffers from that as well, is the first half of the movie is always so compelling. And the last half always has to be crank up the world ending.
Yeah. We got to do some destruction with a lot of crazy.
You don't have to, you don't gotta.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, we'll see. What If starts next Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. We'll start talking about it on our August the 16th show. What else do we got in the world of news? Not necessarily some big, crazy revelations, but Kate Herron, the director of Loki, has come out and given a quote to The Direct about Kang being the one that has orchestrated everything up until Avengers Endgame. She says, I suppose, well, by our show's logic, yes, because he was like, I paved the road, you just walk down it. I guess in theory, yeah, he would have scripted that because that's scripted by our show. That's what we're saying. Everything has been predetermined by this one character, even if up until this point, we've believed the characters had free will, which I think is kind of a fun rug pull of our show, right? So got a little confirmation of that. Not necessarily the biggest. I think most of the audience kind of understood that, though. But I do wonder how that's going to, like, what is Doctor Strange thinking about that, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like, how does Strange view all this? That's the big thing that people are excited about. Jesse, I mentioned this to you prior to the show, because this man was Michael Waldron. What was he? We talked about him before because you have worked with him before, right?
Yeah. So Michael Waldron, when we did our show for YouTube Red, was one of the many people that helped make that show for us. And at the time, he was like working as a assistant to one of the producers, and he was like an idea guy, but he really had not a lot of credits. He was clearly in the industry, and he clearly was like very talented, but he didn't have a lot under his name. And then I even looked up on IMDb recently. Like, he did, I think, a few episodes of Rick and Morty, and then he did like one other thing, and then bam, Loki, and then next, bam, Doctor Strange. And I was like blown away. I was like, this dude blew up. Yeah. And it's very clear that he has some like good. I mean, I loved Loki. I thought it was the best one out of the 3 we've gotten so far. So like, it's clear the man kind of like knows what's up. But I was blown away. I couldn't believe that like our sweet Michael was taken off like this. I was like, my dude. I messaged him like, congrats, man.
Did he message you back?
Yeah, we follow each other on Twitter, dog. Please.
I wondered if he was going to big time you, though.
Like, who were you?
No, he's not a big Twitter user, though. So, like,
I gotcha.
I'll like a thing, and then he'll be like, that's it. Yeah, he doesn't like. He's not a big like Twitter guy. Yeah. But I look. I understand. Some days I wish I didn't have to be on Twitter. So I get it.
I get that as well. Well, in an interview with ScreenCrush.com, he's out there making confirmations, kind of like what Kate was just saying. He confirmed that there were always multiple universes at once, and that the sacred timeline is the loose quote script for all of them, in which there is no Kang. So again, Loki, I think, is going to have a much bigger impact than a lot of folks are expecting. And it's also, I wonder if you can like put the genie back in the bottle type scenario, right? Like, they can't fix this. I don't think there's no way that it can be solved. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. Got a couple of other things. Let's just talk about the Scarlett Johansson thing. I don't know how much, we're not lawyers, so we probably won't get into it too much. But one of the bigger stories around the MCU, which makes a lot of sense if you were privy to how Scarlett Johansson was doing kind of the press tours and whatnot for Black Widow, is that she is now suing Disney over Black Widow having a streaming release. With the important note being that built into a lot of these contracts, I think Robert Downey was one of the ones who started this, at least early on, is a lot of their pay revolves around taking a percentage of in-theater like sales, like ticket sales, essentially. And so when when Disney Plus came into the equation, Scarlett Johansson gets like none of that money, essentially. Contractually, none of that money. And Disney, she's saying that it was a severe breach of contract, and is going up against Disney. So safe to say, we'll probably never see her again in any Disney thing whatsoever. There's been a bunch of different things out here. Disney responded and said, quote, "There's no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is sad and distressing, and it's callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID pandemic." So they're going for the sympathy with the COVID sympathy with that type of statement. And being that, me and Jesse are part of the CAA family, so is Scarlett Johansson. So I got to read this. They stood up in her defense and said Disney has shamelessly and falsely accused their client of being insensitive to COVID. So it's kind of a wild thing.
I think I saw Feige today was like, "Yo,
yeah,
pay her the money."
Yeah. He's kind of in the middle of it, like
pay up.
Right.
He said he was embarrassed by how they were acting, and I have to be inclined to agree because
same.
I know a lot of people are like, she got so much money. Okay, so first of all, it's not about the money, it's about the principle, because you can apply that same argument to Disney and say they make a lot of money. So that
Right.
I don't understand what your point is there, because people keep bringing that up. Like, she made so much money. Okay, and Disney makes a lot of money too. So that argument falls apart there. Second of all, her team did reach out to Disney and tried to renegotiate the contract before it went to streaming. So, and Disney did not meet her halfway on that. And it's very unfair for Disney to now say, well, you didn't want it to come to streaming. Don't you care about COVID? Don't you care about all these people who want to watch this movie? Gosh, we're in a post pandemic era. And it's like, well, she's not technically saying that you should have never released it on streaming, because her team did reach out to Disney and they did try to renegotiate, knowing that it was going to be a simultaneous release and that was going to cut into her profit. And Disney neglected to come forward on that, according to what news outlets have said and what Scarlett's team has said. So I don't know, trying to reframe that is such a smarmy move to be like, well,
Yeah.
you didn't want it to come to streaming? No, I don't think anybody's saying that it shouldn't have come to streaming. I think she's saying she wants a portion of that because the pay she took was contingent upon her getting a portion of box office sales. And now you've taken a chunk of what she was owed. And I know that, when we start talking about millions and millions of dollars, it's very easy to become embittered and be like, wow, well, I would just be happy to have $1 million. But I urge you to like put aside your emotionality and use your mind logically for half a second and realize like, okay, but why are you caping for one of the biggest companies in the world?
That's the crazy thing, is like reading social media and people like simping the fuck out for Disney, right?
It's
like,
so weird.
oh, Disney's at the right. Disney's great. It's like, come on, bro. Come on.
Yeah,
like,
it's about the principle.
Yeah, they
It's
fucked
about
her
the
over.
principle.
Contractually, they fucked her over. It's a breach of contract. That's very clear. Yeah.
They had the opportunity to give her a cut on the Disney subscriptions, with Disney Plus subscriptions. They didn't. And now they're trying to appeal to your sympathies by sitting here and saying, well, she doesn't care about the pandemic. You guys are like, oh, poor little rich girl. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a big Scarlett Johansson fan, but in the same token, poor little rich company.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, poor little billionaire company. Oh, like, come on. It's such a silly. I don't know. I used to do competitive debate, so I'm very much like, I'm like looking at the logic of the thing versus like getting so caught up in like, didn't she make enough money? Didn't they make enough money?
Yeah. It's a weird turn of events, right? But it makes a lot of sense. I remember watching the like Twitter red carpet premiere for Black Widow, and she just wasn't there, right? Like she filmed a video in like a hotel somewhere or some shit for the like red carpet premiere of her standalone Disney movie. And it makes a lot of sense now why, right? Because this was probably all going on behind the scenes of her just being fucking livid at the fact that she can't, make the earnings potentially because the Disney Plus was sharing the release along with the theater. But it's COVID obviously is kind of the mix, the chemical mix to why all this is in a lot of ways, and why it actually factored in. I didn't look at the actual sales as well, or not sales, but the like split between the Disney Plus release and the theatrical release. I don't know like how much money was actually missing there.
It was actually quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they bragged about it. Like at one point they bragged about the money they made from the Disney Plus sales. Because they had such a strong release on, I believe it was like, I think before the international release, because it still hasn't hit certain countries where the pandemic is still in full effect,
Mm.
or is in a different place than it is now. I don't want to act like the pandemic has gone away. Please don't twist my words there. But in other places where cinemas are not open yet, it still hasn't released, so those numbers are even lower internationally. But if it, don't quote me on this, but I feel like the split that they quoted was like 70 million in box office sales and close to 20 million in Disney Plus revenue. So like that's what we're talking about. Like that's a good chunk of money that would
The
have
updated
that came
numbers?
directly.
The updated the thing I saw in the lawsuit was 360 million total, with 60 million being for Disney Plus, I think, at the moment.
Still a big chunk.
I mean, it is they have made, what's crazy is they made the note. This is to just tell you how messed up Hollywood is. They made the note to be like the least profitable Marvel movie by far. And I was like, why is that the note you have to add? Like, that's so messed up.
But if you look at the numbers, like post pandemic, it is doing the best of any movie.
Yes, it's making a ton of money. Yeah, for literally where people are afraid to go to a movie theater, it's making a lot of money.
I think it's so unfair. Like, and everybody knows our review of this film, but I still think it's unfair to take this movie and compare it to every other Marvel movie when we are in a post-pandemic situation where a lot of people aren't going to see it. The movie got delayed several times. Like, so interest in it began to dwindle. I think like my main annoyance is just with how Disney handled it. Like, I feel like they could have been classy about this dispute or said that they didn't feel she was entitled to Disney Plus subscriptions money because there's other things on Disney Plus and there wasn't a separate fee to watch Black Widow. Or was there? No, there was.
There was.
It was $30.
$30.
Yeah, I'm remembering that now. I'm like, oh yeah, it was $30. But they could say that it didn't feel that she was entitled to that, even though that would be weird if she's entitled to box office sales and not that $30. But the whole that I can't. When I first read it, I could not believe that was an official like statement from a company. I was shocked when they were like, her callous, what was it? Callous disregard or something for the pandemic. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I was just like,
it's like, meanwhile, every Disney park is opening and has opened for like
yes.
months. It's like, come on, bro. Come on. Who the fuck are you trying to fool? Yeah.
People are hurting economically after COVID. You didn't see them make that movie cheap. Like, if you cared so much about COVID, why didn't you put it on Disney Plus for $10 or free?
It's just
saying.
But it's just an incredibly bad, like,
care
for a company that's, it's Disney. And all these other companies are trying to be like the Disney of whatever, right? Like, it's an incredibly bad look to talk about like how awesome and inclusive your company is. And then like the one leading woman, you're like, do not pay her. Like, it's a bad look. Just pay her the money and shut up. Like, it's insane to me that this is an issue. The fact that the other producers are like, just pay her.
Yeah.
Like the other executive producers, it's crazy.
So the quote from Feige is not, I don't think it's directly from Feige. It says the Hollywood Reporter editor Matthew Belloni, Belloni maybe is how you pronounce it, not Belloni.
Matthew Belloni.
It's Belloni, so it's probably maybe it's Belloni.
Belloni.
Anyways, in his newsletter, he had a comment that said, Feige is a company man and not prone to corporate showdowns or shouting matches, but I'm told he's angry and embarrassed. His newsletter reads in part, he lobbied Disney against the day and date plan for Black Widow, preferring the big screen exclusivity and not wanting to upset his talent. And then when shit hit the fan, the movie started tanking and Johansson's team threatened litigation. He wanted Disney to make this right with her. Disney declined to comment on Feige's statements or just the conversation around Feige, because those weren't actual statements from him. But
welcome to the producer world. Let me just tell you right now that everything I've ever produced, that is 90% of it, is someone with the money being like, nope, this is the way you'll do it. I'm like, but it's better this way. And they're like, no. That's, it sucks because you can, it's like all you're doing is fighting with like a guy in a boardroom somewhere who's like, actually, my opinion is more important. And so, yeah, I understand his frustration because your job is to keep the talent happy. These people represent the thing you're like trying to keep going.
Yeah.
Your only job is to keep them happy and to keep them invested in being like, what a great franchise. You should still watch it. And now you're like, hey, the woman who was in 10 years of our movies is going to be like, that's trash. Like, you dummies. Oh, so stupid.
Yeah. And part of me also wonders, like, not wonders, knows. A lot of this stuff does happen and we just never hear about it. And so the fact that I think they decided to go public with this and you know, felt like their hands was forced because Disney wasn't going to budge, right? And so now I think they were counting on people, the public, on kind of siding with Johansson, but I don't necessarily know if it's like a clear cut siding with Johansson. I feel like it's pretty split, at least from what I'm seeing in a lot of the social media takes. So,
well, that's social media. Social media is split on everything all the time.
Sure,
but I mean, you have to logically, like, again, producer hat on. If our lead female character is one that is upset about the way we've treated her, how are we going to get more young actresses interested in being in our franchise? We've literally said to them, we will accommodate all this other nonsense and pay people all these other things, but we will ignore a request for a contract change. We will undercut and not pay out to the lead 10-year actress of our films. Like, it's a hard, like, now you're basically saying, like, hey, other women who want to get involved, potentially we could screw you over too. Like, that's, I don't know. I don't know.
Not a good look.
I don't like it. Yeah, it's not a good look.
Not a good look. We'll see what happens with that. Most likely it's probably going to be settled outside of court and that's all they're going to say. And we're not going to ever hear any numbers and they're going to move on. Right. Like, that's usually what happens with this stuff.
It takes digging to find out what happened with Terrence Howard, because I feel like Disney ultimately did a very good job of pushing him out early.
Right.
And I think with Black Widow, since they're like done with that character, I think that's also why they're kind of pushing this, because I think they're just kind of banking on this fizzling out, because they just kind of quietly recast, War Machine. There wasn't like I feel like, there was some conversation about it, but
well, it also wasn't it didn't have the same, Marvel wasn't what it is today back then. Right. So the discourse over that wasn't as large. Right. But I agree with you. Yeah. Like, I wonder what would happen if they did that today. Right. Like, how that would go.
If what he said was true, I feel so bad. I don't remember all of the details, but basically Terrence Howard it was like their ideal casting, and Robert Downey Jr. was not. And they weren't sure how well the film was going to do. And I believe from what Terrence Howard said, he took a pay cut in order to bring Robert Downey Jr. on, because Disney was not interested in having an actor that had a drug record. That's what he claims. He took a $1 million pay cut and was, I believe, also the highest paid actor on the first film, because he basically vouched for RDJ hard and fought to get him hired. And they signed a 3-film deal in which War Machine was going to be a very prominent part of the second film. But then when the first film blew up, they basically cut his role and cut his pay and gave all of the money they cut from him to Robert Downey Jr. And when he made a big stink about it, they fired him. That's essentially his account of the events. And I'm like, that's a horrible way to treat, like, any actor.
And it sounds shitty to gloss over this, but a lot of ways that's Hollywood, and Hollywood's always kind of been shitty, right? But it is also shitty. Like, I think both things could be true.
The thing that I think is interesting is that it's a lot of actors, like you were saying, they, for professional courtesy to other actors, or because, companies like are just always dicks. You can see how someone, example like Scarlett Johansson, would be like, okay, I want to get this movie made, so I will not be paid a bunch up front, but I want X% of the overall like gross that we get at the box office. And a company will be like, of course. Because at that point, they're not spending a lot of money on the actor. And it's like, oh yeah, we'll just give you whatever we earn. And so I can understand how you'd be totally pissed if they then screwed you this way. And I'm not sure, I don't know the specifics of it, but I know that there is talk of oh my god, what was the movie that just released? Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
And how Emily Blunt is thinking about jumping in on this too. And because even she's upset.
There was another one too that I forgot who the other actress was. There's another actress as well that they were thinking
101 Dalmatians.
Oh yes. Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like I couldn't think of her name either.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that was another thing where it was, and it makes me wonder what goes on inside the sort of boardroom business level of Disney, because it seems like for a lot of the male actors, they will pay them up front. And a lot of the female actors, they're like, oh, we'll give you percentage of the gross of the movie.
I mean, that applies. That Robert Downey had the same exact deal. He's the reason that this stuff started. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it also makes me wonder about, like, you know, if Emily Blunt is like, hey, I'm pissed that you released it on Disney Plus, what will The Rock say? Because The Rock is technically the star of the film. So was The Rock paid up front?
Yeah.
I mean, I simply don't know. It makes me really curious how they operate monetarily at Disney. Like, I honestly have no clue. I'm just guesswork.
I think in a lot of, well, go ahead, Bronze.
Well, I think like, so with the Terrence Howard thing, you know, I feel like the reason it kind of got glossed over is because the MCU was still growing at the time, and because he never took it to court. So we kind of just have stuff he said way after the fact. Because I think at the time he didn't say, there wasn't much publicly about why he was recast. And it came, at least I remember seeing it like years after the fact, where it's like, whatever happened, you know, or why did that deal fall through? But this is the first time, okay, how do I put this into words? Scarlett Johansson is one of the highest paid women, or is the highest paid woman in Hollywood, I believe. If anybody has the power and the clout to challenge them or take them to court, it would be her. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, this is the time for some of those injustices to come to light, and we are seeing other people kind of jump on it. So I don't think it's fair to be like, well, why didn't any of these other people sue? Or why hasn't this come up before if Disney's so evil? And why is this? Well, she's kind of the first actress we've seen that can basically, for lack of a better phrase, afford a lawsuit with Disney.
Turns out it's expensive to sue the biggest company in the world. Or one of them, yeah.
Like, how many actors can really do that? You know? And I know it's going to turn into like, oh, you know, you guys are crying about poor little rich girl, but the precedent this sets could potentially help smaller actors. And I don't understand how people can be so nearsighted. Like, we know that the industry sucks and that studio culture is really crappy. But if she sues them and she wins, this could allow for more fair payment practices and stuff like that to trickle down to smaller actors. And I just don't know how that's lost on people. It's very short-sighted to take it as, oh, well, this person, you know, is rich, so who cares if she wins a couple extra million? That means that could help these tiny little actors that are coming into it as well, that aren't arguing over whether they should get $20 million or $30 million, but arguing over whether they should get $400,000 or $600,000. You know,
right? And in a lot of ways, that's why Disney granted, not a lawyer, blah blah blah, but most likely this will not go to court, because if it ends up siding with Scarlett, then there's precedent, and then any other actor can decide to go this route if they feel like they are not getting what they are owed.
It just sucks, because if it does end up out of court, nothing will change.
Nothing will change.
Scarlett will still
100%
not, in the future, she will not be like, oh, Disney's great. She will just be like, I don't want to talk about that garbage.
She'll just get her money and move on with her life. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, all it does is just hurt the, you know, Marvel and Disney as like, sometimes I wonder what people think, because this is like, it's a no-win situation for your corporation. It's so dumb. You're like, we got to fight over a couple million for our $1 billion corporation. Just pay her, you dummies. It's so stupid.
Well, it also makes you wonder, like, the decision to go public with that couldn't have been an easy one from ScarJo, right? Because it's different when you're being attacked as a person rather than when you're being attacked as a corporation or a company for Disney. So like, what forced her hand behind the scenes, right? Like what actually occurred that's not out there in a lot of ways. Cause this was definitely I'm going to go public. Good luck. We'll see how this kind of goes for you. I know how it's going to go for me type scenario. So
if I had to guess,
again, this is kind of a little bit of that privilege from her position, because a lot of people, if they sue
100%.
the studio they worked for, they have to worry about whether or not they're ever going to get work again, like whether other studios are going to work for them. And that's why this industry, like all these horrible things and unfair hiring practices and payment practices happen, because they have to worry about it. For her, she doesn't. If she never gets cast again, she's financially secure. Her name is big enough that she will. Other companies aren't going to be like, well, Scarlett sued Disney, so we're going to stay away from that one.
You say that, but there have been a lot of famous actresses who have vanished because companies are like, no.
But but what I'm saying is, even if that does happen to her, she's fine.
She's fine. Right.
You know? But if that were to happen to somebody that's still coming up, like I'm not going to get into the whole list, but like after the movements that have hit Twitter and some of your favorites from Buffy, not naming names, I'm just saying, look into it. You would be shocked how many actresses' careers were cut short because they pushed somebody or argued with somebody on something.
Right. Yeah. Behind the scenes. Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
Usually you can't speak up about that shit at all. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Time has to move forward for that stuff to move forward. And I'm sure this won't be the last we hear of it. Although it might be the last we hear about it at all. It really just depends on what's happening behind the scenes. So a little bit more news here. I'm not going to show the photo. There is a No Way Home set leak, though. If you don't want spoilers for No Way Home, stop listening for 5 or 10 minutes.
Just look at our mouths, but don't leave, but like just mute and then just stare at us.
Yeah.
Please.
You can join the show when we switch over the tier list. How about that? That'll be a bigger thing, because I don't have spoiler graphics.
Do you have a link that we can maybe stick in the chat if people want
to? Here is the link in chat. Click at your own spoilerage. And I'm going to describe it as well. So it is on a blue screened road. On the right is Doctor Strange, most likely standing in front of the sanctum. And on the left is Spider-Man hanging out, talking. So I think that is pretty much confirmation. If you needed it, if you needed more of it, that we're going to have Doctor Strange in No Way Home. We also had thanks to our toys, everyone's favorite toys. I don't know where this is coming from, what toy this is. But the description, which I'll read now, says Spider-Man: No Way Home Deluxe 6-inch action figures, wave 1, set of 2. The future of reality has never been less certain than in Spider-Man No Way Home. Deluxe 6-inch action figures. What madness will be unleashed as Peter comes face to face with unlimited possibilities, just like the possibilities of fun you'll have with these deluxe action figures. I love reading this type of copy. It's great. Extra actions mean extra fun. Blasting goodness knows what through magic what? Hold on. What is this? Extra action means extra fun, comma. Blasting goodness knows what through magic new adventures.
Well, I mean, obviously.
Maybe this is like translated.
Obviously. Madness fun.
Yeah. This one says strange things are afoot with these 12-inch action figures, bringing together all sorts of weirdness from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What is the full image here? It says Titan Hero Spy, Titan Hero Pioneer, Titan Hero Explorer.
I think those are just like the varieties of Spidey, maybe.
Gotcha. Okay. And then swing into terror with the new Spider-Man No Way Home 6-inch action figures with lots of articulation and potentially multiversal consequences. Each figure draws its inspiration from the movie and potentially other movies too. The case includes 8 individually packaged web slingers and sinister people.
And sinister people?
So
there might be 6 of them.
We've got 6 sinister folk coming up.
Wait, hold on. Read that sentence again. That is an amazing sentence.
The case includes 8 individually packaged web slingers and sinister people. And then it says 1X Spider-Man 3 movie 6-inch basic figure Pioneer, Explorer, Thunder, and Spy. Subject to change.
Sinister people.
I like that. I like that. It's great. It's great.
What an amazing. That is. Why even bother doing that? And sinister people.
Yeah.
If there is a scene in the movie where it's like these sinister people, if anyone says the phrase sinister people in this movie, I'm out. I'm just gonna get up and be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, these are some sinister people. I'm gonna be like, nope, I can't. I'm out. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then there's 2 other little bits. James Gunn out there talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. And in that it will contain, quote, stuff you need to learn before volume 3. So they're going to get me to watch a goddamn holiday special of Guardians of the Galaxy in a couple of years, which crazy. And then another thing is the Better Call Saul writer Marion Dare, I guess is how you pronounce her name, has been set as a showrunner for a mystery Marvel Studios series. So I don't know what that's going to be. But she's working on something. It's crazy to think that they're actually going to add to the current list of MCU releases of the next couple of years, because it seems already fucking stacked. It seems great. Crazy.
It would give me more reason to turn on Disney Plus.
Hey, I've been watching Turner and Hooch. Turner and Hooch. It's not bad. Also, the Mighty Ducks show. Yeah. It's not bad.
No, not bad. I barely use Disney Plus, and I only use it once a week to watch like the one new Marvel show they put out.
Yeah.
So
some of the other
my Marvel box is doing great.
Did you watch The Bad Batch at all? Thumbs up, thumbs down on Bad Batch?
I watched. I'll eventually watch the rest of it. The first episode, amazing. After that, I was like, we're back to standard BS Star Wars animation. Great. It's me. Okay. All right, come on. Let's go. All right.
Look, Dave Filoni's a great man. Okay. Let him do what he wants.
Dave Filoni may love his lore, but I can only stand so much animated Star Wars before I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Let him do what he wants.
No.
Anyways, chat, it's time. We're at the main thing, the main portion of our show. We got to rank some Phase 2 movies.
Oh, thank God. I'm ready. Oh, I'm ready.
We got to rank some Phase 2 movies.
Oh, I'm ready. You have no clue how ready. So earlier I said that I hated Phase 2, but I realized there's also 2 of my favorite movies are in Phase 2. So it's like, I don't know how to describe. I will say this.
Okay.
I'm going to start this with the introduction that I think we all need.
Let me do this before you begin. The 6 movies in Phase 2. Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. Jesse, please continue.
I have a theory that I think goes against all rational thought.
Great.
Everyone I know complains about, we talked about this last week a little bit too, like, comic book movies, they're just like, I'm over it. They're just like, they're all the same. I propose to you that comic book movies have gotten better after watching Phase 1 and
Shocking.
2. Phase 1 and 2 are like, there's some good films, but most of them suck. Like, most of them are not good. And recently, Phase 3 and 4, I've been like really impressed with those comparatively. I went back and started watching some of those and was like, oh my God, these are so much better. Phase 2 has some. I spent all week watching Phase 2.
Yeah, you went back and rewatched them. I instead
Some of
watched
them
all
are-
of Punisher season 1, season 2, and Bronze. Did you go back and watch them? Did you watch any of them?
Yeah. Okay. Thor was a lot worse than I remember.
Thor 2 is way worse than I remember it. I watched that film and was like,
it's hard to defend.
It is.
I'm really sorry. I remember being like, it is okay. And now I'm like, is it?
The
It had
beginning
the
is
worst
fine.
sin of all.
The ending is bad.
It has the worst sin of all. It is boring.
Yes.
When you see what Hemsworth can do in Thor 3 acting wise, to see the way he acts and plays Thor in Thor 2 where he's like, brother, it's like a serious dramatic role and you're like, this sucks. This is also Natalie Portman is lovely. Natalie
She's
Portman
great in
can
that
act
movie.
up a storm. Natalie Portman can do amazing things. But Natalie Portman in Disney and Natalie Portman
she
Natalie
hated.
Portman Star Wars, Natalie Portman Marvel sucks. Sucks. I love Natalie Portman. They criminally underuse her in these films.
Behind the scenes, I think that she actually was like the poorly kept secret is that she fucking hated the directors in both of these films. And she felt like severely underutilized. So I'm excited to see what happens with Taika, because apparently she's.
I hope they let her have fun, because
she
oh
gets
my
to be
God,
Thor. I think she's having a good time.
The whole movie sucked.
You know what was my takeaway from like re-examining Thor and Thor 2, especially Thor 2? I was like, somebody did their research on the comics and took the font too seriously. You know what I'm talking? That was literally
true. That's a good way to put it.
Okay. I was like, y'all took the font to heart here. Like, you saw the font on the speech bubbles, and the director was like, the director was like, bet. And I'm like, nah, bro, that was just a stylistic choice. You didn't need to go that far. Like that was kind of like they completely missed the soul of what makes Thor a fun and compelling comic, and kind of just got caught on that font, because to me Ragnarok is the most Thor we've ever had. Does that make sense? Right down to like the immigrant song and like how it's just like metal. You know what I mean? Like yeah, it's a freaking god of thunder and lightning. And he throws hammers and flies. Like this should be painted on the side of a van, okay? That should be your goal with the Thor movie. Painted on the side of a van. Not like, I'm telling you, this person saw the font and was like, bet.
Well, I think when you look at Kenneth Branagh's, or however you fucking say his name, track record of what he actually does for the first movie, and then what the other director, whose name I'm blanking on, for Thor 2 tried to continue, it makes a lot of sense why they went in that direction. But I think it could be argued that the reason why Thor 3 is the way it is because the first two was such a bad take on how to do Thor. They were like, Taika, we're tagging you in, do something fucking crazy, right? And they just said, screw it. Let's see what happens.
What's crazy? I counted. I want to let you know. Once I realized I was 35 minutes into the movie before one joke was cracked by any character, I began to count. There are 5 laughs in the movie. 5 total laughs in that movie.
Do they come from Darcy? Is Darcy the laugh?
Many of them come from, I think it's like 3 come from Darcy and 2 come from Loki, right?
Sure.
But every other character is played so incredibly seriously. And I forgot that they really, really tried to make it like, and this, I could be wrong, but this is the vibe I got having watched through all Phase 2. Thor was like, this one's for the ladies. That's what it like. It was like, we're gonna give you the love story. It's terrible. It's not good. They missed the mark completely. But it feels like they went really hard into the love story territory, and like it's not good. It's simply terrible. And the more I watched it, I was like, this only gets worse. And then every time it wasn't Thor and Loki, I was like, I understand poor Jane is going through some shit, but I simply don't care. Like, I was like, I don't care. And then I was like, oh, I kind of like the Dark Elves. They're like a neat concept, except
they got criminally underused, man.
they're totally underused, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what their plot is, because you definitely can tell some producer was like, this is Thor 2, not Dark Elves 2, so nobody cares. F it. It's a bad movie. It's not good. It's so boring. Oh my God, it's so boring.
Yeah. There are some very good... I think the one thing that I can say about every Marvel film ever released, there are good scenes in bad movies throughout this entire thing. And
Sure.
Thor 2 has a lot of like good scenes that are very memorable, and they've actually like gone back and used and utilized in a lot of the stuff, specifically the stuff with his mom and Thor 2, and you know, kind of figuring out how they want to. They definitely know what they were doing when they go back and pull those scenes, right? Because they were like good moments. But it also sucks because like I wish we could have known and like learned more about Freya as a character, right?
And is it just me, or I don't want to piss off the Whovians, but when Eccleston doesn't give a shit about a project, you can just tell, right? Am I crazy?
When who? Sorry.
Like, when Eccleston, that's his name, right?
Let me see.
Hold up. Am I having a Jesse moment?
Eccleston?
When Tom Morello doesn't give a shit about a product.
No, Eccleston's in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not crazy. Yeah. Am I crazy? Okay, so like y'all made me think he wasn't in this movie. When he doesn't.
Holy shit, that was him.
Doesn't it? Yes.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Am I crazy? Because I feel like he's capable of being a great actor, but you can tell when he does not care. I feel like I can just tell when he's like, I hate this show, or I hate this movie. You know, I feel like he just has a vibe of like, I don't want to be here. I don't know if that's his accent, but I feel like he walks on set and he's like, I don't want to be here. What do you want me to say? You want me to say this? Which camera? That one? All right. Well, let's roll it then. You know, I get that's the sense I get. Maybe he's actually very professional and very passionate. Maybe he is. But he's always given me vibes where he's like, I don't want to be the doctor.
Here's the thing.
You know? So I'm going to be very honest about just how little I care about this nerdy shit.
Here's the thing. This is what his character, Malekith, looks like in the books. Right? That's a pretty badass looking dude. I feel like the MCU version looked like something out of what was that John Travolta film that's like criminally Battlefield Earth? It looks like something out of Battlefield Earth. He looks like a side character in Battlefield Earth. It looks real bad. Let me see if I can find an image of him in Thor 2.
Let me just tell you another thing I noticed in this movie that if we're just going to destroy this movie, we need to. I'm in.
Yeah.
Another thing, this movie that I haven't seen in a while. So when the movie started up, and Odin is like, "My son, you must ignore your longing for this Earth girl. She will die like, you know, that whole thing, like, she will be dead, and you will have lived many lifetimes."
It's a good scene. I like it.
It's, you know, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, I get where this is kind of going. He's like, you should like totally bang Sif instead. And Sif was like, oh, hey, wink, wink, wink.
That was a weird storyline, yeah.
I was like, did I forget that there's a plot line involving Thor and Sif and then like a love triangle with Jane? And then like he goes back and he sees Jane, and literally like in the background, you can almost hear like, I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. Like they have a moment where they see each other in the rain, and he's like, I came back for you, Jane. Yeah. She's like, ice. And she slaps him. She's like, I waited for you, bitch. And then he like, I have to take you back to Asgard. And they go back to Asgard. And Sif's there.
Yeah,
and Sif is just
Bifrost away.
This. Yeah, and Sif's like, this bitch. And you're like, oh, this is me a thing. And then Thor's like, Sif, I need you to look after Jane while I go handle some shit. She's like, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, can't wait for the scene where they finally talk. Sif is not in the rest of the movie. She is gone. That plot line ends.
Well, doesn't she leave
45 minutes into the film
on one of the other 9 realms? Or that's how this movie opens, right? Was the fight scene on one of the 9 realms?
The movie opens with a fight scene on one of the 9 realms. The one that I guess is like
they're in like Vol, or they're on some like frost planet.
Yeah, like, and so one of the four stays there.
Yeah.
They're like, you should stay behind because we don't need you for this film. And so he's like, okay.
Vanaheim there.
And then the rest of the movie is literally like, Sif is supposed to be taking care of Jane. She vanishes until the very like last act where they're like, we have to get off Asgard. Only Loki knows the way. And Sif is like, this bitch. And then she helps and then is again gone for the rest of the movie. Literally, they make a plot line about like, hey, Thor, you should get with the literal woman who is your wife in mythology instead of Jane. And it's like, okay, I should deal with this. I should. And then is dropped. It's a plot line that is straight up dropped.
Dude, she had to go
and then
to
she doesn't show,
Agents
she
of
doesn't
S.H.I.E.L.D.
even appear in the third movie.
She had to go to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Jesse. She had to go to the Uncannon Land.
Every other one of those characters shows up in the third movie and is murdered. She is not even in the third movie. So it gives me hope that they'll like do something with her character.
She's back in the third one. Or the fourth one.
Right. It gives me hope they'll do something with her character. But like literally, I was in it. I was like, oh, I don't remember this plot line at all. Oh, this could be interesting. Maybe this is like some fun. No, there's a reason why I didn't remember the plot line because it vanishes. They go back to Earth
and they do a fight.
Vanishes.
The fight scene on Earth is real silly too because they throw the hammer, then the hammer keeps going through portals, and it's like it turns into this like Looney Tunes hammer of it just like, flying through different portals, trying to get back to Thor while he's getting his ass beat.
I forgot there was a scene where jet fighters show up to shoot down the spaceship and get sucked into a portal, and then at the end of the movie, come back out another portal. Yeah. Like, those guys are fine. Don't worry, we didn't kill any humans. They're fine. Meanwhile, the entire city of London, like an entire section is destroyed. A room full of students is blown up.
Yeah.
But like those fighter pilots, they're all right. They didn't get sucked into another world. They're fine. It's crazy.
Well, that tested poorly if you see the military lose
Students
soldiers.
Kill them. But like soldiers, they're fine.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So let me ask you both this, because we got to do some rankings instead of just shitting on Thor 2 here. Is Thor 2 the worst movie of Phase 2? Can you put it
at a 7? Oh, 100% the worst movie. Can you put it at like, can you just leave it down there at the bottom and not put it at a ranking?
We got to put it, well, for bronze.
Can you leave it off the list? Like, we just want to forget about it.
Bronze is Thor 2, number 6 for you?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes for me.
It's so
I don't
bad.
necessarily have an argument. I don't think it was as bad as you two put it out to be, but I think it might be the worst of Phase 2. I would agree with that.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I think I think both of you are going to put Winter Soldiers number 1, right? It's between that and Guardians for both of you, I would say.
I mean, I would agree with both. I think that it's that the toughest choice of this entire phase is number 1 because I having rewatched Guardians,
we should do that
that's
last.
A fun movie. That's a fun ass movie.
Yeah, we should do that last. We should do that last.
So what's 5? Are we putting
Thor or not Thor? Sorry, Iron Man.
See now here, this one's tough.
I would agree.
Iron Man broke my heart. As an Iron Man fan, I wanted to put that at 6 because that movie is so upsetting to me. I don't know how to put it into words. It's just so upsetting to me.
Are you gonna fight this one?
Can I make an argument?
Fight it for 4th? This is.
Can I make an argument that Age of Ultron is worse?
Make your argument.
That's my argument. Age of Ultron's worse. Like I felt like it was an Avengers movie that felt like it wasn't an Avengers movie. There's very 2 or 3 scenes in that movie.
But here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say about that. I, no matter what, must give Age of Ultron a bump in score because I love James Spader so much.
He does carry that movie.
I love James Spader in a way that like I can't even describe.
He carries that movie. Like I cannot argue that.
He is very good. And you know, I feel like I don't have the connection Bronze has with Iron Man. Like I know you love Iron Man. And so
that movie broke my heart.
And so I can understand. I mean, like having watched through it this week, it's an Iron Man movie where most of the film he's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's an Iron Man movie. It's an Iron Man movie where the villain is like
not the
a villain.
Oh.
It's an Iron Man movie where, like, you know,
they need
Pepper
an excuse to show off Gwyneth Paltrow's abs. Like the latter half of the film, the last 10 minutes is just so silly. Like her shirt is torn for no reason, and it's so obvious. They were like, well, all the guys show all their bodies, so we gotta have Gwyneth Paltrow show her body too. And that whole bit at the end where she's like grabbing the repulsors and then like doing, I was just like, just jettison me into the void. This is the last solo Iron Man film we get. This is
I need all of you. I need everyone, please go to Disney Plus. Go watch that end scene. There is a moment. There's like,
specifically
a
which
cinematic.
Part? Yeah.
Oh, I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
There is a moment where Gwyneth Paltrow's character, like the crane piece that she's on, like collapses and splits in two.
Yeah.
And her part of the crane starts moving across the catwalk, right? And one of those slow, it's moving, so Tony has time to catch up, right? And so it's Tony jumping and like, again, no Iron Man. It's just Tony Stark running and doing all this like superhuman stuff. And the entire time, Pepper Potts is hanging out of the, like hanging kind of upside down out of the like half open container where her hair is like dangling and she's flexing in a way that like her abs are kind of there. And she's like, still though, holding on with both hands.
Yeah.
So at any point in time in that 5-minute chase scene, she could have pulled herself up, gotten inside and not been dangling there. But even when Tony goes to get her, he's like, I'm here, Pepper. And she's still just holding on, dangling over the edge. It's like, girl, you could have saved yourself 5 minutes ago. It is
what are those abs
crazy.
For? It's like that scene from Batman of like, oh, what's the point of all those push-ups if you can't even lift a bloody log, you know? Like, it's like, what's the point of all that core work?
If you can't lift yourself.
If you can't even fucking lift yourself up. Everything about that last part of the movie was so horrible. I just didn't understand it. And it felt like they were doing the thing where they were like, well, Iron Man is really strong with his suits. So we have to figure out a reason why he doesn't have the suit or he's never in the suit or that the suits just suck because, but we also need to have like 40 suits because the thing is like, he's just so powerful with the suit. And I'm like, so give him a powerful villain? You guys don't have an issue with this in the comics. And then the entire thing with the Mandarin, like being set up to, in my opinion, be a really cool villain. Then him going there, he's being like, I'm an actor. I was just like,
that was real weird.
Was like,
that was a weird part. I think that I agree everything you said about Gwyneth Paltrow at the end and that whole thing. But I do think the idea that all the suits were like, that it was kind of the lead in to what, Iron Man 3 it's the first movie of phase 2, right? So it's right after the first Avengers. Okay.
It's the first phase 2.
It's a lead into Ultron then. And it sets up like the idea that he has like, the Iron Man suits, I forgot what they call them. There's a terminology for it, but it sets up Ultron in that way. And so like, I enjoyed that aspect of it. And it was kind of a cool lead in. I like seeing the different suits. I'm a huge fan of just seeing different suits that do different things. I don't know what that is called, whatever that is called. I love when movies do that, where they do multiple things that have like very specific uses.
But again, it doesn't make sense. JP, just explain why it doesn't make sense.
How so?
All right, let me give. So I started watching into phase 3 and 4, right? Because the only way I can get through any workout in my life is by keeping my mind occupied with something else.
Sure.
So I literally would just watch all the movies.
Yeah.
And so I started into phase 3 and 4, and let me tell you a thing that makes no sense.
Okay.
At the end of Iron Man 2, promise he makes to Pepper is he's like, he blows up all the suits. He's like, no more suits. It's about you and I now. And that's supposed to be the moral of the thing. It's Christmas. The suits explode. It's like fireworks in the sky.
For 2 or 3?
That's supposed at the end of 3. At the end of 3, he blows up.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I said 2, but he like blows up all of the suits. I think it was Christmas or maybe it was 4th of July. It doesn't matter. But the fireworks in the sky.
I think it was Christmas.
And it's supposed to be like a beautiful memory of like, hey, I've chosen Pepper over this stuff.
Right.
And then in Avengers Age of Ultron, he is now making other suits. He's back to making suits, but they're like robots now.
They're the
and that's
Iron
how he's going to
Legion.
protect things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but then
that was part of his promise. He wasn't in those suits. Right. They were just like robots.
Crazy. Then in Endgame, he is back to like, well, I don't have any suits anymore, and I just developed this like, nanotech thing as just backup protection. So it's like it's like Age of Ultron as a plot is the most important of all the Avengers movies, but at the same time, for Tony Stark, they just like are going to ignore what happened in Avengers 3, skip over it, create a bunch more Avengers, like Iron Man 3. They're going to ignore what happened in Iron Man 3. They're going to skip over that plot, give Tony a bunch of Iron Man suits, then re-destroy them all, then go back immediately to him and Pepper being like, yo, don't worry, I've chosen you over Iron Man. It's crazy to think that that's the trajectory of that character.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's less Iron Man 3 and more just how they decided to do the rest of those movies.
Well, I mean, agreed. But also...
But I realize that also goes against my statement that I said at the very beginning of this. But I do believe that's to be true.
I really liked how they kind of resolved some of that. I know it didn't come until later, until Homecoming. But I think one of the most heartfelt parts of Homecoming was like, Tony is like kind of trying to, it seems like, let go a little bit, and like he remote controls a lot of the suits, and he's always like keeping an eye on Peter. And then the one time he's like, I literally cried in the movie theater when he's like, if you really cared, you would be here. And the helmet flips up.
Yeah.
Oh, I tear up remembering that scene. I was like, oh, he's there. Like, it was just such a special moment because it's like, I feel like it marks his character as like starting to become more hands off. Like, I feel like it was supposed to be one of those things where it's like, after Iron Man 3, like he's supposed to be a little bit more hands off, but then they needed him there, like, because he's the Iron Man. Yeah. So I feel like they had a hard time navigating that, but in some of the following films, they did it so well that it gives us an idea of what it could have been, and that they missed the mark with it, where it's like, well,
but I don't know if we can count that against the movie because another movie was good.
But it makes you understand how bad Iron Man 3 was.
Thank you,
comparatively
Jesse.
to the good ones. You can see how badly they messed up with Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I'm not marking it down because that scene from Homecoming was good. I'm more so marking it down because I don't think the idea is a bad one. I think the delivery, it was so flawed, It's not like, well, there's no way they could have made a good film with this content. It's like, well, we've seen them do it. It's more so that they just could not narratively figure out or visually figure out how to nail that and make it consistent. So what you end up with is a very wishy-washy character that doesn't seem to have, I guess, like any type of agency or even understanding of what he wants to do.
Couldn't a lot of that also be said for characters in Ultron, though?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, yes, look, I'm not
to compare the movies one, because what we're doing is comparing the movies against another, not like against the grand scheme. But if you look at, if you're comparing them against each other, Age of Ultron, I think, has a very fun opening. It introduces two very important characters. It introduces Ultron is a fun villain. It gives us backstory of these characters. Choked up about this.
I had to burp. Getting choked up about burping. But like, it gives us all of this stuff that, even though not done in what I would say the best way, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was one half done by Buffy guy, and then finished by someone else. I think that's what it was. I don't remember. Or maybe it was Whedon came in to finish it.
I think Whedon came in to finish it.
Either way, it's a movie that definitely is like, oh, Joss Whedon did stuff to this movie. Because you can tell it has like his thing, the Whedon things that happen that you're like, maybe 20 years ago was cool, but now you're just like, oof. And, it isn't particularly.
No, it was all Whedon. That was Justice League.
Was
what
it?
We were thinking about.
Oh boy. Well, whatever the case may be, It is. Yeah. I mean, I think the difference, like the Joss Whedon of the first Avengers movie, it's easier because it's smaller scope. But I don't think Joss Whedon can do big scope films. But whatever the case may be, in this movie, it's one where we have like there's a lot of compelling parts to it compared to Iron Man 3, which is like the villain sucks. I mean, even Killian, I think is his name, the bad guy. His plot is literally Tony Stark is like, hey, kind of weird, nerdy guy, go up to the roof and I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. And he stays up there all night. And he's like, I was going to kill myself because
That's
of
his
you.
villain arc, yeah.
But instead, I developed a technology that turns me into a super villain. Like, that is his plot. And his grand scheme is he's like, the only villain that can get away with things is the villain that is never seen, which is why I created the Mandarin. And you're like, this sucks. Like, the villain sucked. Tony Stark, the hero, he's Iron Man in like 2 scenes, right? He's only Tony Stark. The Pepper Potts plotline goes nowhere until she's used at the end to like give her a cool scene that's not even really that cool. The plotline with Iron Patriot is literally used as a joke. Because the joke is, it's called, everyone's like, Iron Patriot sucks, what a dumb name. And then the password to hack it is War Machine 68 or something like that. Yeah. Right? Like, or like War Machine rules or whatever the hell that. So like the goof is the whole time that like, he's like, no, Iron Patriot's pretty cool. Is in the end, he likes War Machine better. Like that is, it plays no other role. All he does at the end is he's like, come with me, Mr. President. And then he flies, like it is, that's criminally underused. The entire, like, the idea of they go for like a sappy moment at the end of the film with like his robot friends, who the only reason why you care is because they had important roles in the first 2 movies. You know, like the little
what are his
those guys?
Oh, those guys. Oh,
the little, the only reason why those you are like, oh, he saves them at the end is because of the other 2 movies. Right. This one, they're gone in the first like 30 minutes. So what that, you know, there's one scene with them. So they aren't even like major characters. So they pull on that heartstring like, oh, well, you like the Iron Man movies, right? It's not good. It's 100% 5. Yeah. It is better than Thor 2 because Thor 2 truly sucks. Iron Man 3 is just a letdown. Iron Man 3 is just a letdown.
Yeah. I didn't like
it's not terrible, but it's just like not good.
I didn't like the design of the suit, the Coke vanilla style they went for. I can't look at this film objectively, JP. It's between you and Jesse because I think I am going to hate it.
No, you have to because it'll be you got to be the tiebreaker, which is fine. That's just how it goes. There's 3 of us. There must always be a tiebreaker. That's how it goes.
I mean, I'm putting it at 5. It's too upsetting.
That's
to me
where it goes. I would swap it in my personal list, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, Mandarin. I get like the Mandarin, I'm going to call it the cock tease. The Mandarin cock tease was annoying because I think we thought we were going to get that character. We didn't. The Extremist cock tease was annoying because we could have had a great plot line.
Extremist could have been real sick. Yeah, they could have done some stuff with that.
Like if they want to have Pepper Potts be, what's her name? Lifeline or whatever, just do that. Or Rescue, sorry. Instead, they did this stupid half-baked thing where she's useful, but she's not useful. Like no. I'm sorry. Hey, it's just a big case of the blue balls. That's my review of Iron Man 3. The big case of the blue balls because it's all these things that could have been great and could have got your engine running, but instead you're just left frustrated. Thank you.
All the movies are. Is it Iron Man 2 where they fight with the DJ with the DJ AM?
Yes,
is that Iron Man
with
2?
the DJ in the background at Tony Stark's house, and the
Iron
party guests are like, oh!
Yeah, okay. This is the one where Iron Man 3 is where they blow up the building like 30 minutes into the movie, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Iron Man 3
which I thought was probably the best scene in the film.
It's fun, but again, it makes no sense. Like, Tony Stark is like, hey, Mandarin. Oh, holy shit. The way they get there, do y'all remember the way they get there?
Helicopters.
No, I mean, like, just like the scene progress is literally.
Yeah, what's her name shows up.
His friend is attacked, and Iron Man goes to the like press right? He's outside the hospital.
Yeah, he's outside the
And
hospital.
the press, this guy with the phone is like, Tony Stark, do you want to kill the Mandarin? And he's like,
yeah.
Is that what you want me to say? Is that what you? Oh, yeah. I want to kill the Mandarin. And if the Mandarin wants to find me, here is my address in Malibu. And it's like, hold on. You're telling me he's that dumb that he thinks the Mandarin, who is like secretly organizing all sorts of shit around, is it going to show up with like 85 helicopters? Dude,
that's the crux of the movie, though, is destroying his ego. That's the whole crux of the movie. The whole plot of the movie is to destroy his ego and show him that he's more than just a suit.
This is JP. Go back and watch that. The helicopters.
I've seen it.
I'm almost certain are the news helicopters that have secret turrets that open up and have rockets in them.
I don't think they're news helicopters. I think they're just helicopters
I'm telling you, on
that
the
come off
side of
the
one
bay.
of the helicopters said like News Channel 5. I'm telling you.
No, that's because there were news helicopters on one side that were filming it.
At one point, it shows the side of it and it goes, and it says like, I'm telling you, I swear that's what I saw. I'm almost positive.
I'm think that I might be wrong. It's been maybe 6 months since
I could be wrong. Here's the thing. I could be wrong too. I did say Tom Morello was the villain.
There were definitely news helicopters there that were all around his house, because remember his like report, or his the woman that he got extremists from like shows up, and they have to like verify and let her in type deal, because he walks outside.
What a terribly underused character as well. She shows up and she's like, Tony, I was in your backstory for this movie and now I'm here. Also, we will not interact for the rest of the movie. Instead, I'm going to go drive Pepper Potts for one scene and then get shot. That is her role. She serves no purpose in this film other than to be like, well, Killian wasn't smart enough to create extremists, so she did, and then he took it. And so she serves no purpose in this film other than to die.
She was the double agent, right?
It's hard to care about a double agent when she's like, Tony, if you just join us. Oh, I'm dead now. Like, what? Oh, it's not a good movie. It's not good.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it being this is all part of my master plan of why Ant-Man 1 was the best movie. No, I'm joking. Is Ant-Man, I think the conversation now, I'm okay. Ant-Man's ranking much higher than I thought it would be amongst the three of us. Is Ant-Man 3 or Ant-Man 1 number 3? Oh yeah, how much you guys shitted on Ant-Man? I was very worried about it being lower.
I don't feel like we shit on it.
I think you shit on it, or if we roll the tape back from
All I'll say is it is a fun movie, but anywhere near my favorites. But and when we go to our huge MCU list and we have to compile all this stuff together, I promise you it will not be number 3 there. But because Phase 2 has so many bad films, it is 3. It is the easy number 3. In fact, I can easily say in a perfect world, I might even put Guardians and Winter Soldier. Like, if we were doing rankings, I'd be like S rank for sure. And then I'd have A, B, maybe it'd be B. Whatever the case may be. Because the other 2 movies are so good, Ant-Man falls in that category of being like, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Is it like a compelling rewatch for me? Not really.
Yeah.
But like, it's good. Compared to the other 3, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about where I'm at as well.
I'll agree with that. Having thought about it now, while you guys were shitting on the other 2 movies a lot, which is fine. It's kind of interesting with Guardians and Winter Soldier, because you can definitely see the like split for Marvel, where they're like, oh shit, we've got 2 winners here. These need to be the direction that we take our movies. We need to have our like serious spy flicks that are like grounded in reality somewhat. And we need to have our like cosmic crazy nonsense with Guardians. Let's go that route. And so they are like 2 pretty pivotal movies, I think, for the MCU and the directions that they take. I know which one's my favorite out of the 2.
Guardians is my number 1.
That's not mine.
Guardians is my number 1. I remember the first time I saw it in theaters. And so it was like our first real commitment to cosmic Marvel. It was a comic series. I went into being like, how the hell are they going to adapt this? Are they going to go into the whole, like, are they going to go into like the crazy clowns and the loonies and all of this on Rocket Raccoon's Island? And the fact that they were able to introduce so many characters, introduce a team essentially in one movie, get me invested, have every character like be somebody that I cared about, have that many characters in a film at one time, and somehow, like I said, introduce them all and get them working together in one movie.
Right.
To me, that's a triumph. Like, is Winter Soldier a great movie? Yes. If we were ranking in a tier, I would put Winter Soldier next to Guardians of the Galaxy easy. But when it comes to like ranking them against each other, I just feel like Guardians was such an ambitious endeavor, and somehow they still nailed it. And it has a little bit of everything. That opening with him skipping through the ruins and the music playing on the Walkman gave us such a beautiful introduction to who Peter Quill is. And then his mom like getting sick and him running outside was like had us invested in him emotionally, that this is like a child that was abducted and lived amongst the stars essentially. Like he kind of is the Star Lord. Like it just had, I don't know, it just had such beautiful moments in so many different ways. And I thought Ronan was kind of a cool villain, and it just had, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm fangirling. Like, but
Oh man, that's
that was the movie that made me fall back in love with like Marvel movies. And I remember now like why that was. Cause I was like, man, why was Guardians like such a big deal to me? It's like, well, look at these movies that we're ranking. Some of them were not really great.
Sure.
And then Guardians comes out of the gate, and it was like, I remember walking out of the movie theater and immediately being like, I need to watch it again, because they started finally talking about things like Infinity Stones and like showing us like worlds being destroyed and going to the head, that giant city that's built on basically the corpse of a giant galactic being that they haven't even begun to explain. Like getting to see Cosmic Marvel and having them not pull back. Having them be like, well, is our audience ready to see Nowhere? Is our audience ready to see these things? I don't know. We might need to hold back, like we might. They were like, nah, we're not holding back. This is it.
They had to go for it. Yeah.
Here's the collector. Here's all this stuff. The world is so much bigger than you thought it was, and that's okay. And I felt like for me, it was the first time they committed to that. They didn't like talk down to their audience and worry about, well, is grandma and grandpa and your average moviegoer going to understand this? They were just like, you know what? If it's entertaining, they'll understand it. Just have faith and let it fly. And I think that's why Guardians is my number one. And I'm not saying anything bad. I liked Winter Soldier a lot. And coming from like, somebody that I wasn't the biggest fan of Captain America, there's nothing wrong with that movie. It just wasn't my hero. It wasn't for me, And then going into this movie where I was like, I don't really care that much for Captain America or Bucky, but then really enjoying the film, it surpassed every expectation. I just feel like the scale of Guardians is so much bigger that for me, that's the obvious number one.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because I think everything you just said, I could spout the same stuff for Winter Soldier for me.
Right.
I think with Guardians, there's like, I think I have to be in the mindset of like I don't want to call it goofy because that has kind of a negative connotation, but I have to be like up for a fun, like Hollywood goofy movie is how I will explain it. But with Winter Soldier, I can just like put it on and it's going to be like, it's going to be that grounded spy action thriller that I can watch at any moment. Right? With Guardians, it's like, yeah, this is that scene. Okay, I don't want this song stuck in my head. I'm going to change the channel. Right? Like that's how I react to that movie. It's not bad, right? I think it's a great movie. But it's just I think it goes for me and Bronze. It sounds like it's like what we want out of the movies. I think that the iconic moments in Winter Soldier for Cap are like they're the moments for Captain America. I think in the entire. Well, there's some of the moments I think for Captain America in the entire MCU. That scene where he's like holding the helicopter to the helipad bay is like fucking bonkers. The scene where he's in the elevator, where he says like, how are we going to do this? That scene's fucking great. When he gets on the bike and like rides off of the Fall of Shield or the original or like the midpoint movie or whenever that happens, that's a great scene. Nick Fury playing a role in there and like that whole moment was great. The on your left thing was fantastic in the beginning. Like there's just a lot of like callbacks that I think happened throughout the entire MCU because they were just like classic moments. The helicopter Civil War. Okay. Sorry. Some of this stuff does blend together. So thank you for keeping me honest there, chat.
I will say Winter Soldier was probably one of the first. This is a bit of a controversial take, but it was one of the first Marvel movies where I felt like they had decent fight choreography.
It is the number one fight. No, I agree with you. It's when they leveled up, dude. When they drop that knife, when Bucky drops that knife in that fight, they're not fucking around.
All of the fight choreography was really good. And prior to that, I'm forgetting the timeline for Daredevil. I'm forgetting if it was.
I can look real quick.
But I feel like for me personally, I know people in the YouTube comments and chat are probably gonna be, but like we haven't seen that outside of like Winter Soldier and Daredevil. Those are like the two times we've seen really good hand-to-hand fight choreography.
Totally.
I was hoping to see more of it in Black Widow, and I personally was disappointed. Because that's what I expect from that style of movie. Because I get it, people are superheroes, so there's a lot of powers flying around.
So,
but I will say that was
release date was April 2014 for Winter Soldier, and Daredevil was April 10th, 2015. So almost a year exactly to the date.
Okay.
After one another, April 4th and April 10th, respectively. So
like I think I am right in that Winter Soldier was the first movie first Marvel property where I saw like real hand-to-hand combat. So I was very like impressed with all the choreography. And then that was not matched until, Daredevil. And then in my opinion, once again, I think Daredevil matched it.
The opening scene to Winter Soldier for me too is like another classic moment of him landing, like jumping out of the helicopter, whatever, falling into the water. And then you see him just like fucking running like a goddamn gazelle on the side of that aircraft character, like drop kicking people, hitting people. It was great. And then we got to see him fight GSP, which is also a lot of fun as a UFC fan. But yeah, I don't know, Jesse. You might have to be the decider here. You might have to be the.
I'm ready to take on this role.
Okay.
Mostly because I have confirmation now that it was in fact news helicopters with hidden rockets.
Oh God. Okay.
Which is, I think, the most important thing.
I mean, it makes
news
sense.
Helicopters with hidden rockets.
It makes sense. How else are they going to get that
close? So. Truthfully, having literally watched both these movies in the last 3 days, it's tough because these are films that are so drastically different, but are what you would summarize all of Marvel as. Marvel is both down-to-earth, gritty, street level, and at the same time, intergalactic comedy whiz-bang antics, right? And that is exactly what perfectly sums up these two films and why I love Infinity War as much as I do, because it's now you have the combination of those two, and to watch them sort of like hit each other and like is fascinating to me, and I love that's why Infinity War is like a great movie. And I can't wait to talk about that. Anyway, the thing that I think is fascinating here is if you go back to Winter Soldier, at its core, it is literally a movie about a dude trying to save his friend. And it is the story of those two guys, and that is it. That is like what the vibe is. You don't need to know much more other than that. Like, this dude will do anything to save his childhood friend. And like all the other things that happen in that movie, the spy games, the like intrigue of like Hydra in the future and how Hydra's in the government, all that stuff is awesome and really cool. But at the end of the day, it is straight up just like a man who is willing to die for his friend. And like, that is it's a very compelling plot. And I can understand, like, there's definitely like I don't know if this is true, but like the vibe I got, like, it's definitely like a dude movie. You know what I mean? Like,
it's an action movie.
But I mean, like on a core, like that's my dude, bro. Like I do anything for my boys. It like has that vibe to it. Where
Yeah,
like,
it's more of a spy thriller action drama for me. But yeah,
you say that. But
look, I'm not a bro. I'm not a bro, Jesse. So I can't.
If you
relate,
break that film down, it's a ride or die homie movie. That guy's like, I will do anything for my bro. Like it is straight up a bromance movie. It really is. And but all the part, like from the moment it starts, from the boat scene, when Captain America jumps out and you like immediately are reintroduced to Cap, it is straight up the first time we've seen Captain America truly in modern times. In Avengers, he was like, he was on a helicarrier 99% of the movie.
Yeah.
This is the first time we see him actually truly living in modern times. And it's him learning about stuff, and he learns from his friends, and he like goes through the list that he has, right? And you have the introduction of Falcon, and you have his relationship with Black Widow, you have his operations behind the scenes, and so you get to see this man sort of like work through his shit. And you see the intro, that boat scene is incredible, and then there's like an intrigue of like, what the hell is Black Widow up to? And then you go through the whole plot of like, oh my god, is like this man dead? Spoilers, but like, is this guy dead? And everything from the start of that movie, it's like a perfectly well-placed, well-timed thriller, right? It's like an action thriller. It's very, very well done. And the end, I'm going to say this, and it might be, it might be a little like controversial, but I think this is the first time up until this point where they've truly nailed the third act. Most Marvel movies are good, but the third acts usually end up being way too over the top and not at all good.
Avengers, I think, nailed the third act, but one of the few times. I think I would agree with that.
I would even there's some cool scenes in the third act of Avengers, but the third act meanders. Like the third act of Avengers is like we're in a tower, and then we're back on the street, and now we're doing like it is.
It's like a 40-minute
like a
fight
roller coaster
scene that culminates.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's a long fight scene.
Yeah.
It's like a really long, because that's what people tuned in for. It's kind of like when you talk about Star Wars, and they admit, like, look, Empire Strikes Back was great. Return of the Jedi is literally just a 2-hour fight, right? And that's what Avengers is. It's literally like, we got you all together for a long-ass fight scene. And so, like, I don't know. I feel like this is the first time that it really, like, the whole movie from start to finish nails it. With that said, I also went and rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy, holy shit. Like, I do have some complaints about the beginning where I feel like it's a lot of exposition, and the way they do it is like, this is Gorgamoth. He's a guy who does this thing. There's a lot of times where Rocket just like says facts. Where like they walk through the prison like, oh yeah, that over there, that's Gamora. And Gamora is the daughter of Thanos. And Thanos is this guy who's not up to any good. And then, Drax walks in, he's like, you killed my wife and daughter. And now there's a lot of that at the beginning.
Of Drax is kind of
Galaxy.
rough in the first one, I think. Maybe the weakest character for me, but
I mean, I think the second half of this is my only complaint about Guardians. The first half is a lot of exposition and a lot of world building and a lot of creating stuff. But the last half is so good. It is. I love the last half of Guardians more than a lot of what's in Winter Soldier. Because like I even find myself watching Guardians again just for that, like that last fight is so fun. In like a million ways.
Dance off? Or you mean
like the whole thing. The whole attack on Nova Prime is like dope as hell. It's so fun. Every character in that is a blast, and it is like the music is great. Everything about it is compelling, and the dance off, while silly, leads to a great scene where they all hold hands and fucking roast him. It's like
a little silly though.
But it's like fun. It is fun in a way that is exactly what Marvel movies should be. And I can understand why that film brought so many new people into the Marvel fold, because it is exactly what Marvel should be. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It is super fun. And at the end of the day, you walk out of that movie being like, I want to see more of that. And it is like, that's why this is very, very hard, because these two movies are so vastly different, but like at the same time are so, so good. And yeah, I mean, this is tough. I personally think that Winter Soldier overall is a better, like, more complete movie, but I cannot deny that Bronze has every right to be like,
I agree.
Like, Guardians is a good film. It is very good. And yeah, I mean, me personally, it'd be 1-2 Winter Soldier, Guardians. But like,
I think that's the tiebreaker.
Having recently watched it, I like, after Guardians ended, I was like hype on Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, oh, I want more of this, more so than I was about Captain America, because I was like, oh, that was good. Like, I love that movie.
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's the old tried and true Winter Soldier. Love it. But I watched Guardians again and was like,
for me, so chronologically, when you watch, it's Guardians 1, I think, right into Guardians 2, and like, it's too much Guardians for me chronologically. Like, those movies are so much. Goofy is the word I'm going to use again, but it has such a negative connotation. I hate using it. But it's like so much goof that I need a little bit of like grounded in there. Like, I feel like if you compare it to, and this is, you know, outside of the actual listing stuff, I feel like Loki nails the like goofy factor, or Thor nails the goofy factor of like the cosmic world. It makes it a little bit easier for me to digest in terms of like the second to second or hour to hour stuff. To where if you do both Guardians movies like back to back, it's like a little bit overwhelming. It's like sensory overload.
I don't imagine that back to back it would make for a good watch, because I feel like Guardians is the palate cleanser to the MCU. That's how I've always felt about it, especially if you look at like the color palettes and the music they use. Like prior to Ragnarok, I kind of felt like it was like one of the few ones where you could just, I don't know how to describe it, but like it was, yeah, it's visually so distinct that you know, it's just, it hits a different tone for me. I think my favorite thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, though, is at no point in the movie does it try to be something it's not. Yes, they don't come to the end and have every character suddenly be incredibly competent, or have like all of them have this perfect chemistry. It's like they're still trying to figure out what each other can do. They're still trying to figure out how all of this works. You know what I mean? Like, it's not clean, it's not neat, just like it's sloppy and kind of, or the characters are sloppy and kind of fumble over themselves in the first half. I'm still remembering that scene where Gamora tries to like steal the Infinity Stone from Peter Quill, and then when you compare that to the last half, it's like I said, there's still, at no point is it like, well, now this is going to become the very serious cosmic Marvel film where we establish, you know, this character as an important character, and we're going to have this entire thing where Lee Pace is like, you know, going to go with hand-to-hand blows to Peter Quill, because that just wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
You know, like the basically from beginning to end, the film is like about, it's a gang of misfits that somehow fail forward. And at the end, it is still that. And I think that's why I like it. There's no point where they just, like I said, magically become serious, competent, or heroic. You know, the entire fact that they call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy is like kind of hilarious, because they're just so like morally gray, and that's like highlighted by the things Rocket Raccoon says, you know, with talking about taking people's eyes and this, that, and the other, and God knows what he's been up to. Gamora having her checkered past, Peter Quill having his checkered past, them taking up with oh gosh, what's that? Yondu, and him being an absolutely horrible person, talking about eating people. Like, I kind of like how they're
Guardians, to be honest.
I love Yondu. I think Yondu is so great.
Yeah, it's the best arc in the entire Guardians filmography, for sure.
Bronze, you brought up a point that I think is fascinating, that Guardians of the Galaxy is a vibrant, lush, like over-the-top colored movie, right? It's like in your face.
Yeah.
But everything in it is morally gray. Meanwhile, Winter Soldier is like a morally gray movie where, you know, like all that, but like visually and like what's happening, but the characters are like, I am Captain America. I do not budge in my beliefs. I am the most like honest dude who ever was, but like everything around him and like the tone of the movie and even the color palette of the movie is this like, toned down. We're keeping it down to earth. It's fascinating. Like, again, the two movies are so polar opposite each other.
They are.
Yet
They are.
100%.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I like them both a lot. I want to reiterate that. I'm only campaigning for Guardians because, I love Winter Soldier too. So please do not take this as like, oh, Bronze doesn't like Winter Soldier. I do. It's just that like it's like what Jesse said. I get excited when I watch Guardians.
Yeah.
I
get it.
like in spite of myself, like, and there's that for me is like, I don't want to say rare, but it doesn't happen with every, like I get excited when I watch Punisher. I get excited when I watch like, season 1 of Daredevil, the first time you see Kingpin, like there's certain
She gets
things
real
that I just
excited when
get-
she watch Iron Fist. She loves it. We just
Ah!
it's weird. Me and Jesse still haven't figured it out yet, but she's just the biggest Iron Fist stan.
Won't stop talking about it.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
always
crazy.
in our DMs, just posting photos of
No.
Quinn or whatever the fuck his name. I don't even remember his name. He's just loves.
I hate that dude. It's just stupid. Okay, I'm not going to go on my rant about how that dude upsets me because I'm sure he's maybe a nice person. I don't believe it 100%. Maybe he's an asshole in real life too. But yeah, I think like Guardians is just like, it's just, I get excited when I watch it. I get excited for the rest of the MCU.
I'm same way
like
with
every time I watch Guardians, I'm like, when are we gonna get Adam Warlock? When are we gonna get like? Is there gonna be more Cosmo? Are we gonna have our sidekick dog? What's gonna? There's and I don't like Winter Soldier's great, but it doesn't leave me being like more MCU, more MCU. I'm just like, oh, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm that way with Captain America, right? Like
Fair.
if I see him drop kick someone on a fucking boat, I'm like, it's fucking goddamn right. That's Captain America, right there. Like he can drop kick whoever he wants. That's the shit right there. But Jesse, I think you said it. We just didn't have the gravitas around it. You sided with. Are you sticking with your?
I think, I think you both
gotta rank 'em.
explained. Yeah, no, I think you both explained very well the idea of like Guardians of the Galaxy makes me hype for Marvel, but I also believe that Winter Soldier is just like a better standalone movie, and so for Phase 2, I like have to rank it number 1 out of all the Phase 2 movies, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when we compare all of these with the others, because I already have.
Because if we went back to the S rank, I would put them both at S.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Because they're so different. But we decided last week to move to the number system, and now I want to move back.
No,
S-
this makes sense. This is easier.
But it's
this is easier. This is how it goes. All right. So the official Phase 2 MCU Crew rankings. Number 6.
I think we should move back to the S rank.
No, that's how it is. Number 6, Thor 2, The Dark World. Iron Man 3 at number 5. Number 4, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 3 is Ant-Man. Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 at number 2 spot. And Captain America the Winter Soldier. I was not expecting this to be the list. I figured there would have to be a bigger fight for Ant-Man to be where it was ranked, but you guys just fell in line.
We thought Ant-Man was worse than Iron Man 3 and Ultron.
Yeah.
Oh, JP.
Yeah, I did.
No.
Just because we were like,
You were
it's
down
all
on
right.
it. You were down
Like,
on it.
we can-
You were down on it.
We can
were
acknowledge.
just trolling you. Honestly, we saw your
You were down
face.
on it.
We saw your face. We're like, oh, Ant-Man 1 could have been better. And we're like, now we just have to twist this knife.
JP, you want to know how little Bronze and I cared? Is the discussion about 5 and 6. The 4, 5, 6 discussion was forever. The 1, 2 discussion was forever. We were like, yeah, Ant-Man at 3 is fine. That's how little we
Well,
were
hold on.
like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Didn't I think because I wore you guys, this was all a master plan by me, clearly. Because I wore you out on the 5 and 6 discussion. You're like, oh no, we'll just give them 3. We'll just let them have 3. That's what clearly happened.
I don't know how. There's like, look at this list.
I know,
There's
it's
no
crazy.
way you can compare Ant-Man to the top 2, and there's no way you can compare Ant-Man to 4, 5, 6. Ant-Man literally is just like a serviceable movie that is fun, but like,
it's carried
let me
by
remind
Paul
everyone.
Rudd and Michael Pena, 100%.
Oh,
Without
100%.
question.
It literally
Yeah.
is just the two of them.
Yeah, I agree.
But like, again, I fell asleep during Ant-Man 2. I don't know how Ant-Man 2 ends. I couldn't tell you. I only know
It's like
that
so important to the next couple of movies. You gotta watch Ant-Man 2, Jesse.
I mean, I watched the post-credit scene online, so I was like, oh, okay. But I literally have only seen Ant-Man 2 once, and I fell asleep. And I was like, I think I got what I needed.
There, Jesse. That's where our paths diverge because I actually really liked Ant-Man 2.
I fell asleep.
I'm gonna have to.
I love the
like
two.
That movie.
In Ant-Man 2, I love all three main actors. I love Michael Pena. I love Paul Rudd. I love Evangeline Lilly. I love them. I can't help that Ant-Man for some reason is not my vibe. I can't help it.
I get it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm also biased. Maybe I need to rewatch Ant-Man 2, but I just remember his crew being like Baba Yaga, and for some reason that shit was so funny to me every time he said Baba Yaga. I was
Dude,
like,
it's got some funny moments.
love these side characters. They are the most invested I've been in side characters in a long time. I hope they keep them around because I just love Ant-Man's little posse. They're not superheroes. They're all like ex-cons. And I just thought they were so cute and so funny. And like, I just love them so much.
I love them.
Yeah.
Like those are, if I have to, when I watch Ant-Man 1 again, all the scenes with them I loved more than every other part of that movie. The crew is so funny.
Yeah.
Yes, they're so good, and it's
unfortunately T.I. won't be in Quantumania due to some outside issues with him as an actor and as a person. But yeah, he won't be back for the third one. But I think everyone else is signed on, so we'll see how that goes. Also, I really hope that Michael Pena does like a Kang like recap or something.
Oh my god, that would be hilarious. Yes,
hilarious. I would love to see that. I think that'd be 10 out of 10. I also want to see that. I think didn't Feige say that like Michael Pena, there is a filmed recap of him doing the entire MCU up to Endgame. I want to say that was recorded or something like that, and they never released it.
If they could get all the cast members to do the whole like the voice over his voice bit. Because that is, if I rewatch Ant-Man 1, I look forward to those moments more than like the Ant-Man fights.
They're funny.
Or Ant-Man learning his powers. Like all those things you think would be neat, I could care less about. Meanwhile, Paul Rudd being just Paul Rudd is hilarious and awesome.
He's great.
And then Michael Pena literally just reenacting story. He's like, so my cousin did this thing, and then all the actors are acting like him. It's hilarious. It's so well done. Like press movies, all right.
I feel like I don't know which came first, that or Drunk History. I think Drunk History came first.
Probably,
but it's same vibe. Same vibe.
I did like that they figured out a way to work that into the MCU, like this entire concept of like telling very serious subject matter with people that look like or are the original actors, but then doing it in a very casual fashion.
Yeah.
So I mean, because I love Drunk History for that reason too. There's one episode with Billy. Is it Billy the Kid?
Could be.
The famous cowboy?
Yeah, Billy the Kid. Yeah.
He's famous.
Billy the Kid. Yeah. There's one where he's like, and then he comes in, he goes boom, boom, boom. And I still reference that to this day. Where I'm just like boom, boom, boom. And it's
someone in
that show's great.
That they brought that into the MCU.
Someone in chat, Legionnaire 92 says plot twist Michael Pena is the Watcher. I stand. I'm into it.
I would love that. I just like, again, for some reason, Ant-Man as a character doesn't do it. I can't figure out why. I'm just not into it. And I love all the actors. There are moments in these movies where I'm like, hilarious, so good. Yet I am like, I just this week watched the Ant-Man 1 and was like, yeah, I mean, it was all right. And it's so weird to feel that about something and be so passionate about, like, I love when Paul Rudd shows up in, when he's in Endgame. Every scene he's in, it is like,
it's great. Yeah.
You carried that scene, my man. Yeah. You stole that scene. And yet it's like, I literally don't care about Ant-Man. It's like Paul Rudd, though.
He's a weird character.
Put him in everything.
Yeah, he's kind of a strange character. Anyways, next week, I guess it's time for phase 3. And that might just be the whole show. We might skip a little bit of the smaller news bits. Phase 3 for those that need the refresher, contains, I think it's 11 films. Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home. That one's
That's
going to
so
be tough.
hard.
It's gonna be tough.
I feel like we need to divide that into two parts because some of those require I mean,
I've started watching through them. Let me tell you, I forgot phase 3, and this is what I was saying at the beginning.
Turn it up.
Phase 3 is so much exponentially better than phase 1 and 2 that
they go big.
When people are like comic book movies, it's just old. I'm so over it. I'm like, they've never been better. They've never been better. And so, man, phase 3 is gonna be tough.
Are you doing chronological, or are you just watching them in release order?
On Marvel, on Disney Plus,
yeah.
If you go to the Marvel section, they literally have headers that's like phase 1. It's all the phase 1 movies, and phase 2, all the phase 2, and they have one that's phase 3 and 4. So it lists like some of the new content that's
Disney
just come
Plus
out.
Shows, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, but I'm just going through it by order of release, and I just finished the other day going through Black Panther again. That movie's so good. It's gonna be tough.
I'm saying. Black Panther is so good, but
I think I can rank that pretty easily. Like just right now, I think I know my list.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to.
I don't think I do.
And put Doctor Strange a little bit lower than I would normally. Because I just recently rewatched Doctor Strange, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm absolutely, utterly in love with this character and with the theming in this film." But pacing wise, overarching wise, I'm already stressed. Somebody in chat said Bronze is stressed. I am. I'm gonna probably get stress rashes over trying to rank.
Well, we could do this. We could do this way, where we come to the show next week with our list, and we compare list and go that way. We're much more analytical, or we could just do it off the cuff like we did the past two. That's up to you guys.
I think we have to go movie by. I think we have to
go movie by movie.
Movie by movie this thing, because there's going to be a lot of films that are very obvious where they should be placed. But then there are going to be things I love Doctor Strange. However, compared to the other movies, I don't know how to play. That is a conversation that I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
It's tough.
Doctor Strange is I love that movie. I've rewatched it so many times, but compared to Endgame, you can't do that to me.
Look,
that's not fair.
That's top of that list. If Endgame is not,
that's not fair to me.
It's.
I'm gonna fight. I think Infinity War is better than Endgame. I'm gonna fight on this.
What are we really fucking doing here, though? What are we? It's not number one.
Endgame gave us the freaking scene with the arms and the fuck you, Jesse Cox.
Endgame, come on now.
I think Infinity War is better than Endgame.
Endgame has one of the most
Are
you
smoking crack?
Endgame has an iconic scene.
History.
Are you smoking crack, Jesse Cox?
I'm ready to fight. I think Infinity War is a better movie. I think Endgame has a better end scene. I think Endgame has the most incredible
one of the best scenes in movie history.
It is literally 20 films worth of look, I will not argue with that. But I think Infinity War is a better film.
Tune in next week for this conversation where we no longer do the MCU crew anymore because Jesse has apparently chosen violence. And we'll discuss it next week. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Okay. I think I have my headcanon in that list of what that's going to be. Let's do some shout outs. Do we want to discuss the Venom trailer? Did you guys watch it? The Cookie Monster trailer with Woody Harrelson.
What are you talking about, Eddie?
It's real.
Do I get to eat people, Eddie? Oh, I want to eat the people.
What was that comment?
Now I'm thinking about it, and I might agree with Jesse.
Oh, God.
I can't do this. I can't do
Save
this.
for next week.
Join me, bro.
Save for next week.
Join me.
Save for next week. Yeah, I think Carnage looks cool. It's a little weird because, canonically, I think Carnage is Venom's son or something like that. And the comic, I don't. Woody Harrelson's doing Woody Harrelson stuff. I don't know. I'll see the movie.
No, but the first third of I can't.
I can't having watched the trailer and having seen the first Venom movie, and seeing what the trailer showed us, I'm convinced the second Venom movie won't be good, but I'm still going to go watch it.
It's going to be stupid, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, the first Venom movie was dumb, but I left being like, that was the dumb that I enjoyed seeing one time. And I'm going to be the same thing. I'm going to be like, you know what? It wasn't total garbage, but I have no investment in another Venom movie.
I'll
like,
say,
yeah, okay.
I'll say this about Woody Harrelson, and this is, and I mean this as a compliment. It's not going to sound like one. If there was ever an actor that could really make me and sell the idea that they're a serial killer, it's Woody Harrelson.
Is it because he has red hair? Is that what it is?
He's just got this look to him that's just like, yeah, you're fucking crazy, right?
I want to know how they let that man have hair dye in prison.
Right?
I got a lot of questions about how his hair ended up like neon red in jail.
Yeah, and the other thing too about the trailer, it really, I feel like Carnage could be the like extreme of like how crazy you can get in terms of like killing people, and for them to not like be able to match that with what I know of that character, it's going to be kind of a weird pill to swallow. So we'll see.
Do you want me to eat people, Eddie? Okay.
He doesn't want to fight that one because he's red. Whatever the fuck that means.
I cannot fight him. He's so red, Eddie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't believe they went. The trailer goes all in on the voice.
It does.
It's like,
Okay, I eat cookie for you, Eddie.
Yeah.
they go all in. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. All right.
How do I say this? I am gonna watch this movie.
Uh-huh.
And I don't hate watch things, just to give content. I'm gonna watch this movie.
Yeah.
I surmise I will have no expectations, so I will not be horrifically disappointed. And at the end I'll step away with a feeling of like, well, I'm glad they're, doing other stuff other than the MCU and taking a different approach to movies. I wish they were good.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to have that feeling, cuz I do like when, they kind of do things a little differently or try something new. Like I like that. I think that's why I liked Logan so much, cuz it's a really different kind of movie. I like that. Probably why I'm very optimistic about What If, because it's different, and but I feel like that's my take on it, where I'm gonna go in and be like, well, I'm glad that they're doing something different, but
Sure.
Some different doesn't always mean better, sometimes it's not as good.
I got you.
I know that this is the MCU crew, but I will say this: Green Knight slapped. So that movie was.
I heard very good things about that.
It was the first movie I went back to movie theaters to watch. I said it was going to be Black Widow. It wasn't. I Disney Plus Black Widow, and that was a great movie to see back in movie theaters. So
I heard it was good.
And on that, sometimes different is better or good, and that's Green Knight. So
here's what I want to end on, and then we'll do shout outs, because I was just clicking around in the Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki. This blows my goddamn mind. Avengers Endgame came out 25 months ago.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that was like 2 decades ago. That's crazy.
It wasn't JP. It was in the before times.
That's
time
crazy.
is now marked as 2019 and back, and then 2021 and forward. We lost a full year. Like, the world shut down, dude.
That's crazy.
Time has no meaning.
It came out June 28th, 2019. Sorry. I'm wrong. That was the re-release. It came out April 26th, 2019.
Yeah.
Still. Maybe a little bit, maybe like 30 months, but still. That's crazy.
Yep.
2 years.
A little more than 2 years.
We're entering the last third, 2021.
I know, it's almost over. This year's almost over. It's crazy.
For the
Crazy.
last
Can I tell you
half,
something?
yeah,
This has nothing to do
2021.
with Marvel at all.
No, it doesn't.
But as
This-
we're all
Mhm.
talking about time flying by, the other day I asked this question and we found an answer, and it's been blowing my mind ever since.
let's hear it.
So, because I've been like, how come when you get older, it just feels like time flies by?
Right.
And the answer, it turns out, is when you're a kid, your brain is much smaller. So all your synapses are like
I think I saw this in a movie.
millimeters closer together. But because they're closer together, you view the world at a faster frame rate. And so and think of it, it's kind of like in the scenes where like, Quicksilver, whoever's like running fast,
Yeah.
and everything slows down for him so you can see more. As a kid, you see so much more and you register so much that everything seems like time perceived slower. And as you age, your brain expands, and those like little tiny expansions slow the world down for like basically everything's going so fast around you because your brain can't keep up with the frame rate. Your frame rate slows down. And so it seems like a year suddenly passes like that. But when you're a kid, it seems like a year is your whole life.
Yep. It's all perception.
And I was
of time.
like, it blew my mind. I was like, what? So yeah, that's
I just
your answer.
assumed it was because, like, you know how like when you were young and it felt like summer lasted forever. I assumed it's because, like, when you're 7 years old, 3 months is a long time.
Yes.
But
yeah.
when you're 25, I mean, even 3 years isn't that long. Like if you talk to like somebody who's 18 about, oh, would you commit to this thing for 3 years or sign a 3-year contract to work on a show, they're talking about a sixth of their life. But the older you get, if you talk to a 30-year-old, that's a tenth of their life. That's like nothing.
Right.
And I mean, I even thought it was, when you're a child, like if you go to school, for example, every year is a different experience. You're like first grade, second grade, you're different teachers, maybe different classes. I thought that had to be it, right? Like your experience. Nope. It is straight up just like as a kid, your brain can register more stuff.
Right.
And as an adult, the older you get, the less like you can suck in, the less information you can absorb. And so it just means that like the world around you flies by and time is only a perception. And so, how very Marvel of us. Time is only a perception. And so as you age up, it feels like, that's why people who suddenly hit like 40 still feel the same way at 30. Like, like time flew, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're 13 and you become 18, it's like the world has completely changed.
The worst part about that is anxiety multiplies how fast time perception is there or is not there. So
I think that's why 2020 flew for me.
yeah.
I think like 2020 and 2021 flew for me because of anxiety, 100%. Like
Yep.
I feel like it.
If you're
A
always
lot of
present,
people are like,
then-
"Will 2020 never end?" And I'm like, "Oh, I felt like I blinked and it was over."
Yep. If you're always
it is-
mindful and present, then time passes slower. 100%.
If you ever worked in retail, if you ever get swamped or super busy,
Time flies.
that time flies by.
Yep.
But if you're stuck there and you have no customers and you're just like, that's the longest day of your life. And that's just a great
Yeah.
example of it. Is like if you're overstressed or you have a lot of anxiety, that's like
It's very
and
true.
Yeah.
time,
You're
man.
bombarding your own brain. Have you ever done that thing when you worked retail where you're like, in 3 hours, I'll be halfway through my shift.
That's the worst
And
part.
in six,
Don't do
yeah,
that.
in 6
Don't do that.
hours, I'll have 3 hours to go home.
Don't do that.
Yes. Which is why the days where it was swamped and everyone was like, it sucked. There's so many people here today. Those were the days I loved because the day flew by and I was like, I don't have to
Yeah.
think. I
Yeah.
shut my brain off
Like,
and I
oh,
just
it's
like,
lunchtime.
yeah.
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 For me, it would be like, it's only 2 hours until I have 1 hour until lunch.
It's true.
Let me tell you, that's how you know you're like, this is not the job for me. If you ever have said, I only have X number of hours till I'm off, that is a job that you do not love. Have you ever had to question it? If you've ever said, only 2 hours to lunch, that is like some high school shit. That's where you're like, only 2 more classes to lunch. Like,
Oh, God,
yeah.
that is high
Oh,
school incarnate. Yeah.
Mhm.
Listen, I wasn't born into the streamer life, y'all. That was several years of retail to get here.
There you go.
Been there. I feel that. Yeah.
There you go.
Jesse, no.
Let's do some shout outs.
was-
Stop this quickly depressing conversation. Bronze, where can people check you out? What do you got going on?
Hi, hello. I'm that bronze girl. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at that bronze girl. I'm currently playing Chernobylite. Yeah, please come watch and check out my stuff so I do not have to go back to the soul simplifying life of retail. I'd appreciate it. Y'all are the best.
Short but sweet. Jesse, talk to me.
Ooh. Hey, you can find me everywhere on the internet under Jesse Cox. But more importantly, right here on the old Twitch stir. Yeah, I think this week, boy, I got a ton of stuff to do. If you missed this past weekend stream, on Tuesday we're doing it again. There's a game called Akiba Strip, and it is a game where you play as a boy in Japan who is in Akihabara. He is a vampire hunter, and the only way you can defeat vampires who have learned to walk in the day by clothing themselves is to rip off their clothes, and then they vaporize. So,
Accurate.
if you want to tune in to the greatest video game ever made, we're going to be playing that tomorrow for a few hours. It is incredible. I can't even. There's a scene where last time I played, I fought a bear in a chef outfit and tried to rip off his clothes. I mean, I don't know how to explain this to you. It is the best game ever created by man. So tune in. I know you'll love it.
There you go. Short but sweet. I can't believe you're playing the game. I think I've played that game before. I want to say that maybe
it's old. It's like it was an old, I think PSP or a Vita game, and they re-released it.
I think I played that.
It is.
Have you played Galgun?
It's so funny.
Have you seen? Do you know what Galgun is?
I have not played Galgun, but I know of it.
Don't play Galgun. Don't. It's bad. It's
the game. Chat. The game is called Akiba's Trip, except it's spelled Akiba Strip. It is.
It's accurate. It's accurate. Anyways, coming up on the channel, we've got JPNN following, immediately following this. We'll jump into the gaming news of the day and see what is going on. We're in a little bit of a drought right now till kind of all of August in terms of game releases, at least the stuff that's already been announced. Till about like the 20th when we got some Ghost of Tsushima and some 12-minute stuff. So we'll see what it has in store for the channel as we progress throughout the month. But we got more MCU Crew next week. We'll do phase 3 for that. Drop frames on Wednesday this week. Fight Me will be on Wednesday this week, and we'll kind of go from there. So thank you all for tuning in to the old MCU Crew. We'll be back next week. It's going to be a doozy of a show. We might just skip news so that we can get through however long it's going to take for phase 3, and we'll see what happens. So get your rewatches in order, come prepared, and we'll see you on the battlefield next week for phase 3.
We're in the end game now.
We're going to be in the end game now. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, that is when we have to order all.
That's
of them.
when we have to order
that's
all
the
of
end
them.
game.
Yeah, that's the end game. You're right.
That's our end
that's
game.
The
That's
long
gonna be
ass
a rough.
episode.
That's gonna be wild.
I'm gonna order in some food when we do that.
I
Can
might
we
just
have
cancel
a mutually
stream.
agreed thing?
Yes. Yeah, we might just cancel stream for the day.
Pizza? Okay. Can we get a pizza sponsor and just all have pizza that day and hash it out? Pizza and beers
Yes, please.
all around.
Yeah, might be the case. Might be the case. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week on another MCU Crew. Have a good one. Bye-bye.